All right, folks. Welcome to a very special edition of Scene One, Take Three. This one's special for a couple of reasons. One is obvious; it's Godzilla night, man. But the other reason is we have another guest with us here tonight. I am Tom Hutchison, as always, your lead man here on Scene One, Take Three. We have got with me Jim E. Noble hanging out. What's going on, Mr. Noble?
Hello,
young fella. How are you? No one gets that reference yet. That's a quote. That's a quote from a movie.
I know the quote from said movie.
And I'm not giving it until somebody knows it. Also with us here is David Fought. What's going on? Hey, you combed your hair this time.
Damn
is
straight.
that the secret? Every time we have a guest, it's like get the gel out, make it happen.
No, that's spit, dude. That's spit. That's not gel.
It's natural.
It's
it's natural. Okay. I still can't believe you don't know that quote. Here's our guest today, guys. Comic book writer extraordinaire. He has written comics, Godzilla, a lot of the Hasbro stuff, etc. He does also appear to have the answer to the question. Chris, go ahead and throw that right back up there. Hello, young fella. How are you?
Yes.
Hello there. I heard that and I was like, come on.
Yes,
come on.
Jaws, Mr. Noble. Jaws. When Hooper gets to the docks and
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I've been saying this to you for like a week, and you have no one's picked up on it. I'm very disappointed.
I'm Ben Gardner, I think, right?
That's right. Ben Gardner. Yep.
Oh, eyeball guy.
We did a whole Jaws episode, Jim.
I know, and we all wore Jaws shirts.
Yes, we did. No, I didn't. I think I lost mine.
Except for David.
Yeah, I wore it the week after. When
we wore the same shirt.
So all two of us. So yeah, that was a weird, abrupt introduction. Mr. Mowry here has been writing stuff for IDW for many, many years, including the longest ongoing Godzilla series ever done. Surpassing the Marvel series, of course. He's done Transformers. He's done Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He does actually work for Toho as well of late, over the last year or two. Congrats on the dream job, dude.
Thank you so much. It is it's in this pandemic age, I tell people it's less working from home than it is living at work lately.
Sure.
With the movie and everything else. And then the Netflix series Godzilla Singular Point, which just premiered in Japan. It's been nonstop. Super fun. Obviously, I pinch myself every day, but yeah, it's 100% a job, you could say.
But it has those perks, man. I've seen the pictures of you at the Toho Studios. Didn't you get to hold the oxygen destroyer?
I did.
I mean, come on. That's
saw some of the suits that they have. They didn't let me take pictures of the suits. I really don't know why, but I respected that. But there's that 54 remake suit that they did for the Boss Coffee commercial. Mm-hmm. The Tokyo SOS suit, Final War suit. So it was cool. I was just like, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Well, I mean, at least they're saving the suits because the old stuff is gone. Yeah, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even as they were filming, those suits were coming apart. Okay. In some cases, you can literally watch the movie and see them falling apart, which is a little depressing and sad. But at least we got what we got out of them. So Godzilla comics. What else? Give us the comic book resume. What did I miss?
Transformer stuff, mostly all movie related, which was really fun actually. I grew up. I'm born in '73, but 80s kid growing up, we had the greatest properties growing up, of course. So it's fun to kind of take that knowledge that I had of that brand and then sort of kind of start over again with the movie stuff, because the Bayverse is
not what we know.
Nothing like G1 or anything. But did those, some Godzilla things. Rulers of Earth was the longest series that you talked about. Did Rage Across Time, issue of Legends. Did some Ninja Turtles universe with the Triceratons, and then issue number 5 they had Leatherhead, which is, I don't know, I can't get past like the mutated reptile thing. Apparently, that's where I'm like, so I'll take it though.
You've got a niche. You've got a niche, and it works. It's fine.
You're right. You write what you love.
Yep.
I mean, what else do you want to do? So let's start off with the easiest question in the Godzilla world. All right, it's the easiest question, Chris. What's the best Godzilla movie?
Destroy All Monsters.
Oh my God,
hands down.
You had an answer right off the bat. I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
My favorite. It's not the first I've seen, but it was. It's definitely my favorite. It's the one I try to tell people to watch to kind of like get into the whole Godzilla lore, and you know, it's got sci-fi. It's got, I mean, the largest cast up until, you know, Final Wars, but 11 monsters, sci-fi, like a little bit of like espionage, like spy thriller kind of feel. Just some of the greatest like effects work too. Like, it's fantastic. So
I'm not going to say this is the best movie, but when people ask me where to start, I have a similar answer because it's got a lot of monsters in it. But you don't think that going to Destroy All Monsters is like, how do you watch that one and then go and watch all the other movies with like 2 monsters in it? Like, this is lame. There's only 2 monsters.
Well, I mean, you could look at, you know, King Ghidorah as being like this ultimate bad guy, which was kind of the bad guy of the previous 2 films, you know, the previous couple films. So if you look at, you know, like Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster or, you know, Invasion of Astro Monster, he's the big bad.
Yep.
And then gets beaten with like 2 monsters, and then, or 3 monsters and 2 monsters, and then it's like 11 monsters or 10 other monsters. Then he comes back and, you know, versus Gigan. I can see where that gets confusing, but for me, it's just like, it's a good introduction to like all these different monsters.
Totally.
And, yeah.
Well, it's like I when we saw King of the Monsters, the new King of the Monsters, I went with a friend and from Ozfest, Mark Baum. We went with him because it happened to be opening over the Oz weekend, and so I took Allison Lear to go with me, and she had never seen a Godzilla movie before. She had seen Kong Skull Island, I think, but she had never seen a Godzilla movie. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, I hope you like it. I mean, I hope this is your thing. Don't feel bad if you don't like it. That's fine. You know, whatever. So we went in, and I came out of the movie like, holy God, was that awesome. And she loved it too. So, you know, when we were done, I was like, I feel like it's going to be really hard for you to go backwards now, because this is at such a level for modern storytelling that, you know, we grew up with guys in suits. So we can watch guys in suits and be like, we get it. It's fun. But to go from this backwards, it's like such a regression. You have to really like the genre and the idea of what this is beyond, you know, the hyper special effects. So we still haven't moved her backwards yet in any of that stuff. But so I'm really interested to see, you know, how that plays out. But for me, whenever people ask me, and a lot of this comes from because we're all comic book circle guys, is I tell people to watch Godzilla vs. Gigan or Godzilla on Monster Island, because you've got manga in it, you've got the alien sci-fi dudes in it, you got 4 monsters in it, and you have Godzilla Tower, which is awesome. So that's one of the ones that I kind of tell people to start with. And of course,
that's the first movie that I ever saw.
That's the first one I ever saw.
5 years old, got me hooked, and I was like, the hell's this thing? Like, what's this crazy thing with 3 heads, this thing with the hooks, and it's got a buzzsaw on him for his stomach? And, monsters are talking to each other.
I know, right? They're talking, and again, in the Japanese version, when they are rah, 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 there's like these Japanese word balloons pop up like a manga. It's really funny and really quirky and really strange. Guys, we're probably going to dominate this a little bit, because I know you guys aren't exactly big on the Godzilla side of things, but do you have any recollections of where you guys started as far as any Godzilla movies or anything for yourselves? I mean, especially Jim, we can't even talk to Jim. Because we already know where that's starting with Mr. Millennial Jim.
The year was 1998. I was
God help us all.
Oh, there you go.
And Ferris Bueller came out with a Godzilla movie. That's the first Godzilla movie I ever saw, was that one.
That's it.
Hey, Tim, do you like Godzilla though as a character?
Yeah, I like Godzilla.
Then you know what? It served its purpose. It's a good movie for that.
Yeah, I tried to go back and rewatch that like last year, and I was like, man, this is really bad.
Yeah, it's not the greatest. It's I think if they just called it like Monster, it'd be fine.
Yeah,
But,
when you put the name Godzilla on something, there's an expectation, and it fulfilled none of them. So if it had just been Sea Monster, we probably would all be like, "This is funny, man." Matthew Broderick and Hank
Ferris
Azaria,
Bueller
this is
meets the
okay.
monster.
Hey, look at the baby little raptor guys. But
Yeah.
when you put the name on it,
Yeah.
then it changes things. Dave, you remember what your first one was?
Oh yeah, hell, we saw. God forgive me, it's been so long since I've seen the older Godzilla movies, but I saw the one with the son at the drive-in.
Son of Godzilla.
Hey guys, come on, let's go. Let's get out of here. You know where they're talking?
Oh, that's Godzilla's Revenge.
Okay, that's it. I saw
That's
that
Godzilla's
actually at
Revenge.
the drive-in when I was younger. It was that and God, what was the other one? It was yes, that one. And we just punches the shit out of him. And I'm like, dude, and I was like, what the hell is going on? But that's the first time. And then growing up, I had the videotape, and forgive me, I can't remember this one. Remember this one? It's the one with the robot and the little boy. He almost looks like Ultraman.
Yeah, that's Godzilla versus Megalon.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one. I had that one. I watched it a lot with that little dolphin thing he rides. That little,
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
damn
yeah.
thing
We
always.
saw that one at the drive-in too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was. Yeah, but that damn thing creeped me out. That little, he'd ride it. And, what the hell is going on? There's a robot.
You got a dad that's an inventor, man. I mean, what do you want? He made a
know.
dolphin swim thing.
But I still have a
Building stuff.
VCR tape to this day, and that's what I remember. And then
VHS.
Yeah, VHS. Sorry, whatever the hell they're called. Those little things. to put in.
Did you call it VCH? VCH.
You know the VCH tapes, the ones
It's
you
a-
said you go to
it's a new format,
Blockbuster to
VCH.
get and watch them and that was but yeah, no, I still had the tape, and I watched that tape over and over.
Well, yeah, Megalon was one of those that was in high rotation on TV a lot. It's weird because it's not really a great movie. I mean, Godzilla literally is like in it for like 20 minutes at the end, and they fight in a wasteland like nothing, But the odd part is there is a lot of monster in the movie because Megalon is all over the place all the time, but it's really just him and then a little bit of Jaguar, and then they go and get Godzilla. But it's weird, but we all have this like connection to Megalon because it was like beaten into us so many times. Like, oh my God, Godzilla's on TV. Like, oh, it's Megalon again. Well, we'll watch it. Whatever, that's fine.
I remember like going to Walmart and like I was wanting to buy because I used to buy those little golden tapes. I had the little gold deals with all the horror movies and stuff and all. And that's the only Godzilla movie you could find like in the $5 bin because I'd always take my my allowance and go to Walmart and buy a little. And that's the only one I could find. And then finally, thank God, when DVD came out, I was like, yes, send me the pack.
Well, I remember back in this is the olden days, Jim. This was before you were born.
The before times.
Before times. The way before times.
Yes.
VHS was, happening. And but not all of these Godzilla things were coming. It wasn't like now where things just kind of come over and move around. So we had to like hunt these things at VHS stores. So I would have a friend of mine, and every weekend we would just be calling VHS stores. Do you have any Godzilla movies? And they'd be like, we have this one. And then it's like, okay, we got one. And then we'd find another one. Okay, we got another one. And then we'd go out and rent them and spend the weekend and, then take them back. And then go to a different, like you'd go to Glendale and do that. And then the next weekend you'd go to like Pasadena and you'd call Pasadena stores. You'd be like, okay, do you have any Godzilla movies? Damn it, it's just the same ones. And then every now and then you'd find like, oh my God, they have the smog monster. No way. And you'd just race out and get it. Yep. So it was a very different time to try and find these things. It's not like now where you can just buy this and just have it all.
I want that.
Or
Buying that soon.
or to go back to David's Walmart and Jaguar talk. You were talking about perks earlier, Tom. So I have a some production samples.
Oh my
But
God!
conveniently, you can pick up the new Playmates Jet Jaguar
Oh
at
my
Walmart
God.
very soon. So
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yes.
That's so cool.
Nice.
oh,
Man.
there you go.
Oh, I'm so buying that. I am getting that.
How much for that right now?
Yeah.
We'll start the bidding, and
I haven't checked my bills yet in the mail. Let me go down the mail room and go check them real quick. And I'll let you know.
It's Jaguar. It's the robot from that one we were talking about. They come out the figure.
That in the G95, the aka burning Godzilla. So.
Right now.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
Coming soon to Walmart from Playmates. So
Screw it.
So, Chris, I'm actually curious. We've kind of been jumping all over the place, and there's no segue to get here. This is one of the most. Like, it's not controversial, but it's one of the most argued about movies in the series, and it's Godzilla's Revenge. What is your? Because I'll tell you right off the bat, I like this movie. I think it's ridiculous. I don't think it works as well in the original Japanese. Like, I think it takes the American voices to really push it into the true ridiculousness of it. But I like the movie. I think it's totally bat crap. And because of that, I have a blast with it. But when I'm on these Godzilla groups, everybody tears this thing down. And whenever I'm like, and I'm just like, guys, I don't get it. I mean, yes, it's not a great movie. I'm not telling you this is like, Godzilla is number 1 and this is number 2 in the list, but totally this is watchable. But I'm curious as to your opinion on that one.
No.
Well, like, kind of to your point, for me, like the intro music in the American version is way better. I like that cool, swanky, jazzy kind of thing rather than the I forgot the title of it, like Monster March or something they call it. Yep. But conveniently, we just Toho just started Toho International started a North American YouTube page, and we're doing like these like trailer rollouts, like Japanese trailers. And this past Thursday was All Monsters Attack, and so writing that up, like writing the description for it, it's like, I don't want to put too much of a personal touch on it, but I actually really love the movie because I think if you approach it like, so there's a kid, Ichiro, and he's a latchkey kid, daydreams about going to Monster Island. And I think if you look at that, it makes you think, okay, does Godzilla still exist in like that world in real life? Or is he like us and just like watching movies and dreaming about this character and going, so I think if you approach it in that way,
I didn't even think about it that way. I just assumed that he existed and he wanted to go to Monster Island. So you took it into a whole different level right there.
I'm sure other people have thought that, but to me, it's like, that's what's kind of cool about it. And I think someone has to have like added all the footage up, but I think it's got the most monster footage, even though it's reused. Recycled. But it's kind of like, I think the movie is like 70 minutes long, and you can just throw it on and like watch it, and it's just fun.
Yeah.
I don't think it deserves the wrath that it gets.
Yeah. I agree. And going back to what you were just talking about, like and this is why I guess I live in that world where I assume it's all real. In Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, the kid at the beginning is playing with like toys of Ghidorah, and I'm like, what society is making toys of Ghidorah, this monster that came through and like destroyed them? assuming there's continuity here. Ghidorah is this monster that came to Earth many times and blew the place up. Let's make toys of that. And this kid's got Ghidorah toys, and it's just like, that's really weird. There's these weird, strange levels of continuity and like you just pulled out of your butt right there. Like, no, maybe Godzilla's not even real. This kid's just dreaming it all. Like, holy God, we're like doing Inception here with Godzilla. And incidentally, the Smog Monster movie is like super weird too. Like super weird. I don't even know how to begin to explain the Smog Monster. I don't even know.
It's a sign. It's a sign of the times movie
for sure.
Japan was going through a whole like, I don't know what the term really would be for it, like a post-industrial age with like, there's a lot of waste though, and the entire world was dealing with a lot of that. And so it's kind of like a period piece. But conveniently, this year is Hedera, aka the Smog Monster's 50th anniversary. So
wow,
it's a big. There'll be some plans this year. You'll see some stuff coming out. We have a few licensees that we're working with doing some very particular releases around just that character and the anniversary. So Hedera is definitely a top 10 character.
Yeah, it was like there's weird animation in it. It's very anti-pollution. He's the Smog Monster, guys. So it's very anti-pollution. He basically starts as this little tadpole and just keeps growing and growing and growing off all the thing. And throughout the whole movie, you keep getting this Godzilla's upset about the pollution and all this stuff with this kid. And Godzilla figures out at one point, he figures out how science works because they're trying to kill the monster with this like beam thing, and it stops working. And Godzilla's like, you probably just like breathe some fire on that. It might work. And he breathes fire on this thing. It's like, and it like dries him out. So ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. But the key element of Godzilla versus the Smog Monster is that we now know that Godzilla can fly.
Yep.
Indeed.
There he goes.
If he ever really needed to, he can fly. He's fine, guys. He's fine. Don't worry. He's got this handle.
I wanted that in the new one so bad.
Oh my gosh.
Wait for the director's cut. You'll see it.
Oh boy.
No, you won't. I'm totally kidding.
Is it like the 4-hour director's cut? Are we getting a 4-hour
like
Smog Monster?
Toho version, Toho verse or whatever. The Toho cut or
the Wingard cut. Adam Wingard, yeah.
Oh yeah, the Adam Wingard. That's the director. I couldn't remember. Adam Wingard. There we go.
And we've all seen the movie, right?
I have, yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we've all seen it. Okay, good.
Yep.
Good.
Think everyone? Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, are we going right into that right now?
Oh,
Well, we can. I mean, I just thought we were just jumping around, but
We are jumping around. We're totally
we
jumping
can continue
around.
with the show series.
Oh,
we have-
let's do this.
We're just bouncing around. We're just bouncing around. I will say, guys, we probably will talk about Kong and Godzilla. So if you haven't seen it,
alert.
if you
Yeah.
haven't seen it, we'll
Stop
try
watching
not
them.
to be too about it, but we might, we might throw a few things out that you haven't known. So hopefully you all have seen it. It is in theaters, depending on which state you live in. But it is on HBO Plus as well.
HBO
Max.
Is it Max?
Yeah.
What's the difference between Plus and Max?
I mean, it used to be
Plus, you
HBO
get a little
Max.
bit Max. You're like at the max.
Yeah,
Oh,
Max
of course, it's the Max. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It used to be. It was HBO Now, then HBO Go, then Max. So now Go Max. I guess.
So now go Max. All right. So HBO Max. Go watch it.
Just, yeah.
I mean, we can talk about it a little bit. I for the most part I liked it. I actually saw it twice back to back on Wednesday night when it opened. So I'm pretty deep on my recollection of it, how it was. I think there's a lot from a story standpoint that got either missed or things that were like talked about and then like we're just forgotten about. Like, hey, we talked about that, but let's put that back there. In favor of all of the crazy monster stuff, which is crazy monster stuff. I mean, like legitimately crazy monster stuff like that. I mean, the boat fight alone is one of the most unique fights maybe ever in a Godzilla movie. I mean, we've seen Godzilla underwater and fighting, but usually it's just like, this kind of thing. But this was like you're watching him swim, like legitimately swim underwater. Like there's some really great visuals. And of course, you're fighting on an aircraft carrier, so that's cool. So and I think one of the biggest things for me that was a miss was Serizawa. Again, we'll try not to do too much spoilers here, but I don't think that he got the spotlight that he needed, especially since we know he's the son of the Serizawa from the last two movies. So I kind of missed more of him. I feel like he had a story that we didn't get. So that was it. I mean, for me, that's the thing. There's, and I don't want to drop spoilers. So this is really difficult to talk about a movie without dropping spoilers.
There's a giant monkey in it.
There's a monkey and a lizard, and they breathe fire.
Well, one of them breathes fire. The other one.
But
The other
you
one
know,
has the axe that it charges.
I think the bottom line is that I saw it twice in a row, and both times I was entertained, which is really what these things are. I mean, there's old Godzilla movies that I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, but I'm still watching it, going, okay, this is fine. So, and I, from what I can tell, most people like it overall. I'm not really hearing a lot of this was crap type of thing, which is a good thing. And I don't think it is. I think it's a good, like I said in one of my posts, I was like, this is a good addition to the genre, to the Godzilla lore. And anytime you have a King Kong in a movie, it changes the way you have to tell a movie. And really that's a good thing. This isn't just like putting Ghidorah in there. This isn't putting the sea monster in there. This isn't the smog monster. Kong is a very different animal. He requires a different story, and he requires the story to work in different ways, which is really good. I mean, even in the original King Kong versus Godzilla, he still had his basic elements of the wall, and he picked up the girl, and you know, he did some things. But this one took it further, with almost kind of overlapping the Peter Jackson Kong, because you had the sign language, and he was communicating and stuff. So there was, to me, there was a cool overlap there, because I really like the Jackson Kong. And yeah, again, it's hard to talk about it without spoiling things.
I mean, I don't think it spoils anything, but they really should have explained why he was in where he was in the beginning of the movie. It's like,
That
well,
I
how did
agree.
it happen?
Yeah.
Just randomly, like the last time you see him is in the 1970s during
Yeah.
Vietnam. Like that's it, and then all of a sudden, now there's a dome. It's like, what the fuck?
Well, there is a story note there for that. But again, that's what I'm talking about. It's like they dropped it. Bink. Here's what happened. Here's why. And then they just kind of kept moving. And I wanted more. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I have many questions about this period of time.
Shameless plug. You might want to pick up the official adaptation.
Oh,
There you go.
Oh.
does it explain it in the
Okay.
book?
We get a little more in the book.
A little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
we're talking about avoiding spoilers. I have an NDA I signed, of course, clearly. There's a lot probably to say, but I think to your point, Jim, they cover it in that Skull Island takes place in 73. So everyone's like, how did Kong get so big? And he's got a beard now. It's like, okay, well, that's why. It's like that amount of years. He's
Yeah.
grown.
Yep. Yeah, we all got that.
Yeah.
Or at least we should have.
That exterior shot of Skull Island, it doesn't look like it did in the Skull Island movie.
No.
That was protected by lightning and all that kind of stuff. Now all of that lightning is sort of crashed on the island and is literally tearing it apart. Like, sort of, they've been protecting Kong from Godzilla. They allude to that a few times, saying, like, if you take him out, it's like Godzilla's gonna come for him. It's a death sentence. Blah blah blah.
Right.
But, as the story unfolds, they need him to get out of there, and eventually they would have done that anyways, I think.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Watch it again, Jim. Jeez.
Yeah, Jim.
Please, and watch Jaws too, because there's a lot of Jaws references.
Look, I watched all the Jaws for the one episode we did, and then I data dumped everything. I was like, that's it. I know what we're done.
After
We did the show, it's in the can.
Oh my God.
Speaking of, watch. Obviously that one again, and then I can never get this like reverse thing going. There
I know,
you go.
right?
And then, honestly, one of the best sequels ever, Jaws 2.
Jaws 2. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we talked about that as like, this is a legitimate thing. I mean, yes,
I love Halloween 2. Like Universal, like killed it in that sequel category.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah. So let's see. Let's where are we going to go with this a little bit? There are, of course, we'll go back to the show stuff a little bit. Back in the olden days, there was Godzilla, of course. When he came back, every movie that he ever was in again, he had another monster in it, whether it was Anguirus or Mothra or whoever, Titanosaurus, Mechagodzilla, and so on. But they also were doing movies external of Godzilla. Mothra Rodan, of course, which were then blended into the Godzilla verse eventually. One of the ones, though, that is very, very few people know even exist is called Frankenstein Conquers the World, or Frankenstein versus Baragon. That's where Baragon came from, of course, and then he was blended into the Godzilla verse. But yeah, this is Frankenstein. Basically, the idea. This was a crazy movie, guys. This was basically World War II, right before they bombed Hiroshima, and so they found. It was very nonchalant. It was really funny. They're like, "Hey, we happen to have Frankenstein's heart," and they're like, "Oh, okay, we got Frankenstein's heart." Like, there's no question about it. It's like, yeah, okay, we got it. Frankenstein's heart, cool, and it's indestructible. It'll live forever. And then basically the bomb goes off, and the heart survives and eventually mutates and grows into this new Frankenstein guy. That's the basic gist of it. That's the basic gist of the movie. It's insane. It's insane.
Fun movie.
And yeah, it is. And Baragon, of course, is this. And incidentally, this is where Hollow Earth first appears in the Toho verse. They talk about these monsters burrowing underground to survive. Not exactly like we have in the Monsterverse, but they talk about the monsters burrowing to survive and then coming back up. And that's where Baragon comes from.
So I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Yeah. I like that you raised your hand.
Yeah, I raised my hand for mine.
It's better than when his hair goes up. That's when you got a problem.
I'm gonna do that for Chris here after a while. It's gonna go up. So did you say he mutated and Frankenstein is that tall, or is the lizard the size of Frankenstein, like a tiny one?
Yeah, they're basically he's like basically King Kong size, more or less.
That's all I need to know. Okay.
Yeah, because the Godzilla in these movies is like ridiculously big, but back in the olden days, they're basically King Kong-ish size, maybe a little bigger. They actually had
like
this
50
kind of
meters, and then kept.
Yeah. So this guy, basically King Kong size at this point. And the Japanese version, oddly enough, it's like, hey, we beat Baragon. Yeah, okay. Oh, by the way, here's a giant squid to fight. Go fight another monster quick before the end of the movie. And he fights a giant squid, and then it's over. So it's a very strange ending for that movie. But Hollow Earth does get introduced there. It is well, it's not a prequel. It came first, but War of the Gargantulas is a loose sequel to that. And then War of the Gargantulas, it gets blended into the Godzilla verse, but really not until Final Wars, when they put them in the credits. You can see the Gargantuas running around the credits. But you, Chris, actually got to put them in the Godzilla verse in Rulers of Earth. You got to do everything on Rulers of Earth. I mean, you were just like, monsters, man, let's go.
It turned into a freak of the week kind of thing. Like I said, I love comic books. I love the medium. I wish I had learned more about them. Like I'm still trying to learn more about different artists, different creators. When I would take my weekly trips to the store when I was a kid, that's when all of the Marvel heavy, license books were out. So I'm like, ooh, Transformers. Like what's next for Budiansky and everyone, and R.I.P. Herb Trimp, like the guy drew everything I loved as a kid. But like Larry Hama and G.I. Joe and everything. So that whole process of like every month, oh, here's that new toy, here's that new figure, here's that new character. It was like that kind of approach. And it's funny. It's come up a few times with people where people ask about like, are Sanda and Gyra, like the Gargantuas, are they considered part of the Godzilla universe? And I said, yeah, actually like in Godzilla versus Megaguirus, I think they show Gyra like early on when they're talking about like the major tanks and stuff. And then they show Final Wars, like you said, and there's shots of them at the end. Oh, there he goes. Look at that.
There.
Look at that sprint. Haruo Nakajima, the late great. That's a sprint too. That's great.
Oh yeah. He's hauling. That's a crazy fun movie too. If you guys haven't seen
it. And that's the film apparently that got Brad Pitt in acting.
What?
Yeah, he said that in one of the Oscars, like Oscar pre-shows or something. He did this whole thing.
Oh my gosh!
How did you get into this? And Brad Pitt, he's like, well, I saw this movie. It was like I think I'm totally paraphrasing, but he was like, I saw this Godzilla movie where it's like these two. There's like a brown one and a green one, and they're just kind of like fighting and stuff. And I was just like, man, that's what I want to do. I'll find it. Send it to you so you can
I got to see
post
that.
the link,
Yeah.
post show or whatever. But yeah,
Well, and I think right there, Toho, if you're watching, Brad Pitt in a reboot of War of the Gargantuas, it would happen. He'd do it.
we're talking. No, wait, no, it's April 3rd, not April 1st.
Oh my God! So on the comic though, was that? So it was Monster of the Issue or whatever you want to call it. But was that a Toho dictate, or was that you going to them being like, okay, so I want to use this now, I want to use this now, I want to use this now? How did that work?
So when I worked at IDW, I got hired as a graphic artist. And I think 5 days later, when I kind of like, okay, cool, I know where to park, I know where the bathrooms are, all this stuff, feel comfortable now. Coffee machine, especially, like I need a coffee machine wherever I'm at. Talked to Chris Ryle, who was then editor in chief, and said, dude, you guys got to get Godzilla. He's like, yeah? I was like, yeah. And then he told me one day, he's like, okay, we're talking to Toho, we're going to get Godzilla. I was like, yes. You got to get the other monsters, though. He's like, what? And I was like, yeah, Dark Horse tried it. Marvel obviously tried it. No other company has done the other Toho monsters. So the original deal was like Godzilla, or maybe it's 12 total, Godzilla plus like 11 more. Then a few years after that, just kind of like re-up the license. And, I suggested, I'm like, you should get the rest of them. So I just gave him this crazy list and left off ones like, Minilla, Little Godzilla, Baby Godzilla, because to me, I'm like, if you're going to tell a story, like you're going to need one of those characters, and those are all separate characters according to Toho legal stuff. So I'm like, are we really going to do a book with like one of the little baby Godzillas or something? Although I did have a pitch at one point for Mina Saves Christmas, so it's kind of like it was sort of like an All Monsters Attack, but it was like he was like, oh, I'll help you, Santa, like smoke rings and lights away kind of thing. It just came down to the matter of just like explaining like how these characters were going to fit in, and contractually we couldn't reference any of the movies, couldn't create any new origins for the characters. So it was a pretty tough situation, but I went up for a meeting with Toho with my editor at the time, Bobby Curnow, and basically explained to them, I'm like, well, here's how we can introduce, Mecha King Ghidorah. We have a King Ghidorah from the series, Kingdom of Monsters that Eric Powell wrote, years before that Ghidorah kind of like gets buried underneath these rocks or something like that. Like, there you go. We can just have them resurrect that, Ghidorah. But with the Gargantuas, it was just like, here's how we can naturally just introduce them. And for me, it was, I'm kind of like a big animal rights person. So I was like, why don't we have one of them chained up? Like this government captured, which ended up being Gyra. Like they captured this Gargantua. Maybe they were both docile at the time. Like, have you seen the movie, Jim and David?
Mm-hmm.
Where the Gargantuas? Okay. So there's a good one and a bad one. Yeah.
Right.
So the bad one was this one that was just like, unfortunately chained up, and they, tried to subdue him or like calm him down by like flooding the cage of all things. It kind of maybe gets a little bit aquatic, like, Gyra was in the movie. So that was the introduction, and Toho actually really liked that. They're fully on board. So
wow.
It's like, there you go. And I was so stoked to do that. Like,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
and you had good old Tuna Head.
yeah,
Zilla was in there too.
yeah, we wanted that series. So I worked on that with Matt Frank and Jeff Zorno, and that Godzilla fight, like we all agreed was like, okay, like Final Wars, they fight like I think 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. Like I'm like this has to be a full issue. Like we all wanted that to be like this full giant issue. And we all actually have a pretty weird respect for Zilla, which is the 98 version. Just in that it's just underused. It's underrated, and it should be a little bit fierce, but nowhere near like not close to Godzilla's level, but at least competitive.
Yeah. It was interesting. I mean, you had Varan, you got Varan. I mean, everything was in there. It was great. Guys, if you haven't checked it out, I think IDW just reprinted like 2 big omnibus things, like 12 issues in each one. So you can go get those. They just put those back out. They'd been out of print for a while. Or you can, of course, go hunt down the single issues and all the crazy covers. There's Art Adams, covers and stuff. And I'm just like, oh my God, I want all of those.
Yeah.
Zornow does covers too, which are great. So yeah, it's a really great series. And again, it's the longest running Godzilla series of all time, beating the Marvel series by a single issue, which only made 24.
Technically two. The last issue was like a double issue.
Okay. We're getting that's it's like a 2 hours. 2 hours.
I really, and I'm probably completely butchering his name, possibly, but I really wanted Herb Trimp or Herb Trimpy.
Yeah.
Trimpy. Okay. Really wanted Herb Trimpy to draw a cover for issue 25 because Marvel ended at 24, and at the time it was like, wow, this would be, to me, like really, really cool if he could do that. Was told by management at the time that we don't have a budget for it, and then next he passed away, and so that is a huge regret of mine that I just didn't go and just do it, just to have some kind of artwork there to just either commission it myself or something, just to have it done later on. But
Godzilla, I am here today because of Herb Trimpe, because of that Godzilla series. Because that was the first comic book I ever bought. Was Godzilla number 16 with the big mouth open and cowboys hanging off his teeth. That was the first one I ever bought because I was at a flea market and I had no idea what a comic book was, but I knew what Godzilla was, and it was just sitting on a stack of books, and I'm like, what is that? And the doors flew open, and I was in, and now 30 some years later, or whatever it is, here I am doing this, and I actually own the original art for that cover. Another weird story. My first ever San Diego Comic-Con, I walk in to the front, and there's the first booth I see is a guy selling original art. I didn't even know that was a thing. This was like 1992. I didn't even know people sold original art, but I'm like, oh, this is like the original pages. Oh, that's cool, I guess. So I go up and I'm looking around, and I flip over, and there it is on the table, just sitting there. Like, what the hell? You're selling this thing? And they're like, yeah, all the pieces have prices on the back. And I'm like, oh, okay, thinking, I don't know, $50-$60. I flip it over and it's $250. And I was like, yeah, right, dude. See ya. And again, idiot, at 1992 San Diego Comic-Con. Many, many years later, I realized what I did wrong. And I went
triple the price.
Yes. And I went looking for it just to see if I could maybe stumble across it. I was doing a lot of original art collecting and reselling and stuff. And so I was on eBay a lot. And so I would just look eBay original art, whatever. God damn if it did not show up. The guy wanted $750 for it.
Oh.
And I was like, well, no, but I'm going to watch this and I'm going to see what happens. And it went, and it didn't sell. So I was like, all right. So I shot him a message. I was like, okay, dude. So I saw this didn't sell. I can't do 750. Would you do 500? And he says, yeah, absolutely. I'll do 500. So I was like, oh my God. So it took about 15 years and an extra $250, but it is in the collection. And I got to meet Herb at Pittsburgh Comic-Con like 3 months before he passed.
That's
so
awesome.
I actually got him. I got to meet him. I'd never met him before. So I got to meet him. He signed my book. I have the actual legitimate book. I never replaced it. I have the original book from the 70s. He signed that book and he signed the page, and he was like, wow, this is really cool. And I'm like, yeah. And he signed the book, and it was a really cool moment. And then he passed a few months later, and I was like, oh, geez.
Yeah, that's awesome, though, man.
Yeah.
Like,
That's pretty cool.
I don't know anybody who's been. That's a really cool story. Like that thing that grabbed you in to get you into comics, like you now own like that original piece. That's fantastic. And now you're making comics.
Exactly.
Making making great comics too, by the way.
Yeah, had Marvel not done it, who knows? I mean, I might have still seen a comic book, but I might have walked right on by if it hadn't been something licensed that I already knew. So yeah. I owe all of this to Godzilla. Oh my God! And there was a Dark Horse series. I met Brandon McKinney, who did a lot of that Dark Horse stuff.
I got that right there. I actually did the figure thing right. That's a Brandon McKinney page.
Oh,
I have one of his pages, not the big one where he comes up under the Titanic. That's like a splash page. No. But I have like the next page where like he's breathing fire and the boat's falling apart. Because yeah, according to Dark Horse, Godzilla sunk the Titanic, guys. Spoiler alert: it was Godzilla, not an iceberg.
Let's see James Cameron do that.
Yeah.
It'll take 5 hours, but yeah.
Leo fight Godzilla on that one.
Yeah, I have this crazy thing for like shots of Godzilla coming out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that Brandon page is, Godzilla coming up and it's like a big Skrionk in the background. And then that's a Simon Gain page. There you go, that one. That same thing, where just Godzilla like rising up. Like it's just, I don't know why. I think it's just like that's a cool visual for me.
It is. It's a great visual. And the ones in King of the Monsters were fantastic. I mean, that was great stuff. Every time he's popping up out of somewhere, it's awesome. I mean, that's his shtick, it's the making the appearances. Sometimes he comes up out of the ground, sometimes he's out of the water, sometimes he's coming out of the icebergs. Generally speaking, it's always dramatic. Except for Terror of Mechagodzilla, where he just kind of shows up and there's let's put some light. Pew, 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 and then he shows up.
It's in a city. He's like, so
what's up? What
are you guys doing?
You know who it is already. Don't worry about it.
No introduction needed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Let's see. What do I have in here from these crazy pictures? Oh, there's Titanosaurus right there.
Oh yeah.
And Mechagodzilla. Of course, there have been many. There have been a few monsters that have survived and come back. Ghidorah's one of them. Mothra, of course. Anguirus or Anguillus, however you want to pronounce that, depending on how American you are. There are a few that are one and done. However, this guy here on the right is Titanosaurus. He is he was a one and done. He didn't even get a Final Wars reappearance, which was a drag.
No.
I mean, he's not he's not the most powerful guy. He's got a wind tail. But he's cool looking at least. Of course, Gabara was a one and done, but he was that weird pseudo world that was kind of yes and kind of no.
Smack the kid.
But then the other one that's come back many times is this guy, Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla 1, of course, and then the sequel was Mechagodzilla 2, and they literally, this is the funny part. I love the design on this. So you have, for whatever reason, in case you didn't know it was Mechagodzilla, it says MG on his arm. Like, this is Mechagodzilla, guys, just in case you don't know. And then when they rebuild him, it says MG2, just in case you didn't know it's Mechagodzilla 2, which is super fun. I love those crazy design quirks of back in the days.
Not you can tell the other mechs that are around.
What was that, Jim?
Not to be confused with the other mechs that are around, rolling around. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's how you know it's that one. Like, oh, okay. It says it on the arm.
I mean, that factory was busy. Like you had to know which tunnel you're going off to work on or something. It's
an alien space factory. I mean, they're on it. They're on it. Oh, you know what? This is what I had a picture and I lost it, and now I remember what it was going to be, because there's another monster that most people don't even know exists unless you're kind of deep in all of this. Let me grab a picture here. And it is this fool. Which I remember when I was because again back in the day, this was not readily available material. There was no internet or any of this kind of stuff. So every time I'd get a book of some kind, from like Little Tokyo or whatever, I'm like, what is this? I don't understand what these things are. Come on, you dumb thing. Seriously, right?
Welcome to Scene 1, Take 3, where half the show is spent looking for pictures.
I have the picture. It's not saving it now. It's not saving it is my problem.
Sponsored by Totally Rad Comics. Totally Rad Comics by Jim Noble.
See what happens when you put GIFs on the show? You can't get pictures now.
I know. I blew the whole thing up. Well, anyway, there's a dude named King Caesar, and he's another one and done character. And he's basically, I don't know what he is. He's like a big cat, kind of. Well, he does. That's true. He does show up in Final Wars. That's right. He does show up in Final Wars.
Weird soccer homage.
The weird soccer match. Yep. Yeah, they have a soccer match in Final Wars. That's very strange. Yeah, King Caesar. He has the ability to absorb energy and shoot it back at you. So when Mechagodzilla's over there shooting lasers out his eyes, Caesar will absorb it in one and pop it back out the other one, which is a little strange. Now that doesn't help when Godzilla starts shooting missiles, but the energy stuff is interesting. But that's right, he did come back in Final Wars. Yeah,
that character came around right when I was learning. I think in grade school or so. Actually, when I saw that movie, that came out like I was 2 years old when that movie came out. Years later when I saw it when I was a kid. It came out when I was learning that whole, I'm rubber, you're glue, it bounces off me, you kind of thing. Yeah. So it's it worked out pretty well. So
that's hysterical. I actually got it to finally work. We can show you guys this crazy dude.
What? It's fantastic.
It's a pretty wild design. Yeah, it's like it's funny because all the time everybody's like Mechagodzilla. Yeah, but there's another monster in there, dude. Actually, Anguirus is in there too, but he kind of gets his butt beat pretty hard and goes home. Yeah, he goes home. So that's pretty fun. Then of course they brought him back, Mechagodzilla 2 and Titanosaurus, and this was the last of the Showa era, 1974, 75, depending on your American or Japanese version of these things. Yeah. And that was it for a while. He's a sleepy kaiju. That's right. He is a sleepy kaiju. Someone has to sing him a song to wake him up. That's correct. That is correct, Aww. Dave. 100% right. You have to sing a song to wake him up. And then it took about 10 years before we got the 30th anniversary of Godzilla. And the big guy was back in a really kind of unique way. Now this was in 1984. It was Godzilla Returns. This is a sequel to the original 1954. It basically retcons out the entire Showa series. It's just like, nope, none of that happened. There's no Mechagodzilla. There's no Ghidorah. There's none of that. This is just a direct sequel to what we did in 54. Godzilla shows back up. He's bigger. He's got he's bigger because of more powerful radiation and all that kind of stuff. But they also made a huge. This is a guy in a suit, of course, but they also made a huge actual robot animatronic thing that you can see. There you go, right there. Boom. And this is one of the most favorite, even if people don't like the movie or not, but it is one of the most favorite designs of Godzilla. Definitely one of my favorites. For some reason, I did not see this movie in the theater. I don't know how that happened. I was of the age that I should have been at this movie all the time. But I didn't get to see it. But I do remember when the videotape came out some summertime, and I was like, oh my God, I have to get this tape. But back in the day, again, Jim, in the day, you couldn't just, you could go buy videotapes, but they were hyper expensive because you were basically buying them from rental stores. And so this video I pre-ordered it to get a new one, was $85 to buy this videotape of Godzilla 1985. And I happily plunked down my summer savings and took that thing home and watched it again and again and again and again. And I still have it, by the way. But it's also
$85 on it.
I know, right? 40 years later, I still have the videotape. This is one of the interesting ones, and maybe Chris, maybe you can help us with this a little bit, because so there was Godzilla Returns 1984. That's the Japanese edition. It came out when they brought it over. Yeah, Return of Godzilla. When they brought it over to Japan or over to America, they re-edited it and put Raymond Burr back in because he was in the original American version. So they wanted that continuity. So they made some changes, which honestly, to me, I think the American version is a better story, a better film, a better cut. And they are legitimately different. I mean, even the Russian story is legitimately different, whichever way you watch the movie. But since the videotape, there has never been an American release of the American version. And do we know what's happening in that regard? Like what happened that's not a thing that like we can get a Blu-ray of?
Basically, from what I know, a lot of legal issues.
Sure.
So it was released by New World Pictures. No longer around. So there's a lot of things in the Godzilla world, I guess you could say. Things that I've been finding out that are just they're kind of like lost in either legal mumbo jumbo or actual whatever like material is just gone. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's something I've brought up numerous times. Like I'd really like to get that. If anything, it's just there's a scene at the very end. It's not really a spoiler because he comes back, but like he falls in this volcano, and like in the 85 version, it's got like this crazy heart-wrenching like squeal. Like he's like burning alive. Plummeting to his death. Like it's haunting, but that's not in the Japanese version. So the 85 though, it's just like this weird howl. It's creepy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I would love it just for that, honestly. But yeah, like Return of Godzilla was it did finally come out on Blu-ray a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I got it. And that was the first time I had ever seen the Japanese version. And so I was like, wow, this is like really different. I mean, pacing was different. Legitimate scenes were different. Like we talked about, all the Russian stuff is completely different. And so I thought it was really interesting, but I don't know. For me, I feel like the American is just tighter because there's a lot of the underground bunker stuff in the Japanese version, and they just kind of keep going back to the bunker, back to this. Okay, I got it. Let's move on. We can cut a few of these things out.
And the Russian thing was like, it was an accident, whereas in 85 it was like, no, purely intentional.
Yeah.
Those damn Russians. And at the time, it was like, no, of course they're going to try to start a nuclear war.
Yeah. Yeah.
Use this giant like monster as an excuse. Like, of course they want to start a nuclear war.
Yes. Well, and going back to Showa, back in the olden days, Jim, King Ghidorah originally was going to be red, white, and blue. For those that that don't know that, and I saw some pictures of that, which was just blew my mind. I was like, that is so weird. But I'm assuming that was nixed because of the whole American thing. Was he supposed to represent something in red, white, and blue, and then they decided to change it, or was it just, hey, let's just make him these colors, and then they changed it?
Honestly, like I don't know. There are people out there that do know for sure. Yeah, there's people that know far more than I do. Absolutely. But it's kind of funny. We did the licensing expo in Vegas like in 2019, and that was the version that I put up on a design for kind of a booth graphic. Was the rainbow winged Ghidorah version, just to show people like something different, and that's pretty cool that it's kind of making a comeback. Because there's a lot of still photos. You see that pattern,
Yeah, and X Plus made a toy out of it. Yep. They made an actual thing, that's where I kind of really started to realize that this was a real thing. It's like I've never heard of this before. And then that came out, and I was like, "That's a joke, right?" But no, here it is. In fact, I got a picture of it. So there he is. Instead of being gold,
Oh,
he's red, white, and blue.
America, fuck yeah.
look here.
It's Team Ghidorah to the rescue.
Ghidorah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. So 19 so yeah, I actually have somebody asked if I have the VHS, but do I have a player for it? The answer is no. But I do have a friend who took it and digitized it. So we can watch it on our iPads, if we want to do that, which is good. But it's not like, in fact, I just saw something today that like VHS is literally being made again. Like there's a VHS DVD things that are being mass produced right now. So there are new VHSs coming on the market. This is how insane this world is right now. Is we're going
like
back
vinyl.
to VHS. It's like vinyl, yeah.
Vinyl, yeah.
Oh God, the damn hipsters, millennials.
We did a deal with a company. Well, actually, it's kind of weird. Like, so Toho International, we handle basically the licensing and merchandising for Godzilla outside of Japan. But when it comes to things like the music, that's all dealt with Toho Music in Japan. And they did a deal with a company called Waxworks, and they did a giant box set of the Showa soundtracks, so 15 albums. And yeah, I mean, I have friends who are in music, and they've told me for a long time now that, like, oh man, vinyl, it's making a comeback, but good luck. Like, you need to be on press like yesterday, in order to get it out within this next year. And I think there's a number of factories or something that have built up at least over the past 3 years or so. So VHS, I imagine, is the same thing. Like, it's going to get hot, collector wise, it's super hot right now. But
it already is, yeah. Especially key things, yeah.
And I still have my old manager's tag from Blockbuster, so I'm waiting for that to come back.
Oh.
I'll quit Toho and go back to that, and just
you can go up to that. You can just like walk up into the one up in Oregon and just be like, "Hey, I'm here to work. Like, what do you got?"
I still need to watch that. Yeah.
Oh, it's a great documentary. It's really great. It's really great. And if it wasn't 3,000 miles away from me, I'd go see it and check it out. But it's a cool documentary, guys. We're talking about the Netflix documentary about Blockbuster. It's a great one.
Not to spoil it, but honestly, the best part is when the guy was like, "Yeah, as soon as I heard they were going out of business, I went there, rented a bunch of games. I said, you guys ain't getting these back." And then it comes to like the next scene of the woman running the last Blockbuster, going, "Yeah, I don't know how long we're gonna last." And it's like, this dude's just talking about stealing all the shit from Blockbuster, and then we're talking about keeping it alive. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's a crazy situation, that whole Blockbuster thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll come back.
Maybe.
Hollywood Video, here I come.
Yeah,
they got the adult section.
I don't
See, now,
Here we go.
okay. Now the Hollywood Blockbuster thing, like, for me, it was like bad enough. Like, okay, I'm wearing this, khaki pants and this like blue polo shirt or whatever, but I didn't have to wear a tuxedo thing, like a cummerbund and all that nonsense. The Hollywood Video had to, like, they had this whole highbrow kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, no offense to anybody that worked at Hollywood Video, but you're the competitor at that point. But I'm not making documentaries about you, so
Guys, wasn't like next door to him, and you sit there and go, like go sit there going like this, and
it was a weird time where it was like there's so many like dumb, like the competitive promotional things. It was like all of a sudden it was like Blockbuster's like, well, you can have your video till next week, and then I was like, oh, Hollywood Video's like, well, we don't charge late fees. Blockbuster's like, well, shit, you can have like 5 of them for free. Just buy some candy, or something.
Yeah.
It got nutty, yeah. Pardon me.
If you bring your membership card for Hollywood Video and you switch to Blockbuster, you'll get 3 rentals for free.
Totally, absolutely.
Let's see
a picture of you up in the store, like next to this poster for Speed or something.
Oh, the bus that couldn't slow down.
yeah.
But back in the day, it was the small video stores that were even better because that's where you got the stuff that Blockbuster didn't have. Well, yeah, and but that's where all the Godzilla movies and stuff were, all the old stuff. But also when things started moving over into like Laserdisc and whatever, there were places that started popping up with Laserdisc. I remember there was a place in Burbank who did a lot of import stuff, and Godzilla versus, we're in the high C era now, so Godzilla versus Space Godzilla came out on this box set of Laserdisc, and I was like, yeah. I don't know, it was like $100 or something crazy to import it. And then he gave me because it's all in Japanese. It was a straight up Japanese thing. And so he somehow with the purchase of the Laserdisc, he gave me a printed script so that I could read the script, as they were talking. I was like, that's really weird.
Godzilla read-along movie.
Yeah.
Tom's sitting there going, wait, hang on.
Yeah, wait, what page are we on? I don't understand. So I watched Space Godzilla, just Japanese. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm just like, there's a monster, there's a robot, something's going on. All right, this is fine. But yeah, so going into the high C era of stuff, this was the reboot of Godzilla. So while Godzilla 1985 was a connector to the original, it wiped out all the stuff that came before. And then kind of reset the storyline, where you had the second one was this. Now I'm curious about your input on this too, because I remember when Biollante came out, Godzilla vs. Biollante. And I thought that the monster was cool. I thought that the Rose version of it was cool. Like the visuals of it were cool. But I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I saw it not too long ago again. And I was like, this movie makes no sense. Like this movie makes absolutely no sense. They're trying to be kind of metaphysical and weird with it, but I'm like, none of these dots add up to anything in the end. And then of course they fight at the end, and Godzilla wins. Am I stupid, or is this movie just, it doesn't, like, it gets a lot of hype. Like so many people love Biollante, and I think it's because of the designs and stuff, which are great. But I don't get it. I don't get that. This is I would rather watch Godzilla's Revenge than Biollante again.
Wow, those are
that's
strong.
hard. That's fighting words. It's fighting words in the community. I know.
That's what's called digging your heels in right there. Yeah. So for 85 or Return of Godzilla, like it is. Tom's correct, and like they take all of the Showa stuff with the exception of the very first movie, 54.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Scrap all of it. So it's kind of like Godzilla shows up in 54, presumably dead, comes back though. And at that time, the buildings were larger in Tokyo, like all this stuff. Godzilla's like massive, like the size increase as we talked about earlier is crazy. And I have to, I always pride myself in saying, I'm a nerd, but I'm not an effing nerd. Like if someone's like, oh man, I love Godzilla movies and like a big flying turtle, like he's cool too. I'm just like, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I want everybody. Well, it's actually Gamera. It's a different studio, and you're stupid. Yeah, so
put your properties right.
Yeah. But I have to do it because my coworker Aaron, I bust his butt all the time when he says it at Biollante. So we have like the katakana for it. It's like Biollante, So I tell him, but he says Biollante too. So I'm always like, he would be so pissed if I didn't just do that. Anyway, call it what you want, plant monster. I think it has so much appeal to it because the character is so different at that point. It's just this massive, giant like plant with teeth and a mouth, and it goes through. It started as a rose, and Godzilla basically is like like F you, like destroys the rose, and then but it comes back even crazier, and it was like written by a dentist who won a like contest for writing a screenplay at the time.
Well, but at some point somehow, somehow the thing has like some girl's spirit in it, and
so the scientist lost a daughter. And I have this book that's like it's like Biollante, monster created from cells of a rose, Godzilla, and Erica. And I'm like, oh, that's so Erica is this human part of it. But but Biollante is the thing that created Space Godzilla.
Right.
So
yeah. So when you get into the High Sierra, yeah, it's weird, man. It's just weird. I mean, it just is weird. When you get into the High Sierra, this is the first time, really, truly, that you had direct continuity in the films. And the Showa stuff had loose continuity, and of course, you had a couple of the sequels like Mechagodzilla and directly Terra Mechagodzilla and so on. But it was all very loose continuity. In this, it was very strict continuity. It's like, okay, here we are. We're going. We're paying attention to what we're doing. And the second one that they did, which I like a lot, is Godzilla. No, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. The second one was Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla after Biollante, right?
Nope.
No, it was it Mothra afterwards.
King Ghidorah.
Yeah, King Ghidorah. Yeah. King Ghidorah. 91 was King Ghidorah. And this was, to me, this is the standout of all of them. I love this thing because we talked about this. We did a time travel show on here. And I was like, there's a Godzilla time travel movie, dude.
Don't even bring up this one. Like, you're confused by Biollante. Like, oh my God.
I love this movie because I don't even try to understand it because it's the time travel paradoxes are just like, they don't even care. They're just like, we're just doing this stuff. And it's like, all right, I'm just here for it. Just bring it on. So they go back in time to prevent Godzilla by transporting him off of this island before the nuclear bombs go off. Of course, I skipped a part. Somebody comes back from the future, talks to the people in the present, and then they go back to the past. That's how that works. They drop as they come back. 3 little gold monster guys are left behind on the island.
My coworker's favorite monsters, by the way, called the Dorats.
The Dorats, yeah. They come back to America.
That one's Perui. Yeah,
they come back to the present. Godzilla does not exist. He's gone because he wasn't there when the thing blew up. But somehow everybody still knows Godzilla existed. It was like immediately there's a paradox because everybody knows, hey, yeah, there was Godzilla, but now he's gone. That's weird. But now suddenly there's Ghidorah, who obviously was the blending of the 3 Dorats that got turned into Godzilla. The alien, not the aliens, but the future people turn out to be bad guys. They want to rule the world using Ghidorah. They have to go wake up Godzilla again because the Godzillasaurus is out in the ocean and they have to nuke him to make a new Godzilla, which they do. Godzilla, of course, beats King Ghidorah.
Mind right now.
Godzilla, of course, beats King Ghidorah. But then in the High Sierra, Godzilla is not the happy jumping guy. He's essentially a bad guy for the most part. I mean, he's nature. He's not legitimately like, I'm coming to kill you. He's just like, he's a natural beast. I don't like what you're doing around here. We're going to take you down. So he beats Ghidorah, but everybody's like, well, shit, now we have Godzilla's still here. What do we do? So one of the future people turns good. They take the time machine back to the future, 200 years in the future. They find the dead Ghidorah at the bottom of the ocean because he's missing a head. He got his head shot off. They then take and rebuild him into Mecha Ghidorah, put the time machine back in his chest, fly back to the present to challenge Godzilla, who they now win, take him out to sea and do the normal dump him in the ocean, and we're over. This is fantastic. Yep. This thing is one of the greatest. I mean, it's obviously the Mecha Godzilla knockoff, but it is such a fantastic thing in its visual and the fact that it's a time machine. This is a time machine, guys. You know,
this so is cooler than the DeLorean,
right? I know.
Look at those special effects.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. So this movie's great. This now don't, like I said, and we talked about this in our time travel episode. Don't take anything seriously. This is like Austin Powers when they're talking about going back in time and they're like, just don't worry about it. Okay. And that's it. Just don't worry about it.
I mean, it does have, for the first time ever, I think a Navy rank of major, and that belongs to Major Spielberg, who wants to report this UFO.
That's right.
Ship captain's like, hey, what are we going to say? They already saw a little green man or something. He's like, tell your kids about it when they're born, Major Spielberg.
Yes, very good. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Was Spielberg's dad an actual military guy?
No idea.
How crazy would that have been?
Oh man.
Actually, I think he may have been. I want to say there was footage from World War II that Spielberg was inspired by. No, maybe not. I don't know. Could be wrong. I don't know. Steven Spielberg.
Steven Spielberg. Yep. Steven Spielberg.
Google afterward.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's funny,
So
like that is actually when so speaking of the Navy, like I joined the Navy right out of high school.
Hey, me
Got
too.
stationed in Japan. You did? Nice.
I was a submariner.
Dang, nice. That was a crypto CT. So
Oh.
Bravo Zulu to you, shipmate. There you go. Look at that.
Tom, that's Navy terms for you.
That means great job. It's fantastic. As far as you know. No, I'm kidding. No, it does.
Yeah, right.
But no, then I got stationed in Misawa, Japan. So I rented that movie, having never seen it before. I had a bootleg of Violante that I got at Comic-Con when you could just go there on a Saturday and pay $5 and get in. Then got stationed in Japan. I was just like, whoa, this is crazy. I have no idea what's going on. Somehow they're like jumping back and forth, and Godzilla's this, and then now Godzilla's this, and then I rolled into the next film. Tom, I'm gonna let you.
yeah. So then the next one was bringing back Mothra. But this time it wasn't just Mothra. We also got a new dude who I dig a lot. This is another one of the Mothras that I dig out of the whole series. They had a big old counter to Mothra called Batra, who also starts as a wormy dude and then turns into the big moth guy. This one was really weird because like at the beginning it starts as like this Indiana Jones movie with this guy's like archaeologist like digging things up and trying to escape the temple, and then it falls into this sort of pollution and energy, and we're used too much storyline, and Batra is this counter to this and that and everything. It's a little convoluted and a little like, yeah, okay, the whole energy thing, we get it. And of course this is well, no, I almost gave some Kong spoilers away.
I mean,
Almost
it
gave
does,
Kong spoilers away.
but that movie does kind of play into 1964's Mothra versus Godzilla.
Sure.
There is like there are people who are trying to exploit all of this stuff and the egg and give us. Speak. I mean, tomorrow's Easter, so yeah, big time to talk about eggs. Really.
Yeah,
like,
right.
That's give us back the egg.
Yep. And now was this one? Did this come out before the Mothra trilogy? The trilogy came later, right?
Trilogy came out in I'm gonna murder this probably, but came out after Destroy Us, so after 95.
Oh, so way after. Okay, yeah.
I think 97 through 99.
Wow.
Right. So Batra was up next, and then we got this guy using the Mechagodzilla that is now pieces of it are laying around. Somehow we got this.
Where have you heard this before? Thanks to Future Tech.
Oh,
thanks to Future Tech, we got this supposed Mechagodzilla. Sort of the Schwarzenegger version.
Yeah, what's up with his body?
Schwarzenegger version of Godzilla. This movie also brought back Rodan, who kind of had almost like Mothra-like powers, where he would he got his ass kicked. He came back as Fire Rodan, and helped Godzilla along the way to kill off some monsters and stuff. And I don't know, this movie kind of falls flat for me. It never really, I think I liked it when it first came out, but watching it again, I don't like the design. Like the design just bugs me. It's just like, I struggle to look at it. So yeah, this to me is one of the weaker. I mean, obviously Biollante is to me the worst of all of them, but this Mechagodzilla I think was cool for its time, but when we finally got to the Millennium series and Kiryu came around, I was like, dude, come on, that's a Mechagodzilla. I don't know what's happening with this. So your thoughts? You apparently like this one a lot. There's no wrong answers here. We're all just shooting the shit.
Anyone?
Have you guys even seen these middle ground series here? These high
that
C
one
series?
I haven't seen.
That one, no, I definitely did not see that one.
Okay. So I love that movie, Tom, and for a few reasons. One, it was wasn't the first. Mothra was the first, I guess, Godzilla film I ever saw in a theater in really anywhere. Well, no, I take it back, 85, but if you count the American version, it doesn't really count, I guess. But so seeing that in a Japanese theater was Mothra, but then seeing Mechagodzilla, it introduces a Godzilla offspring of sorts in Baby Godzilla.
Yep.
Who would carry over into two more films. Like Tom said, there's Rodan, who's like one of the top 5 characters for sure, and then goes through this transformation into like a Fire Rodan, like a more powered up version. The ending kind of might have inspired a certain movie that Tom has a wallpaper of behind him right now. Right? So, but then Mechagodzilla itself is now created by humans as a weapon to go against Godzilla instead of crazy monkey alien space apes. Which is so
much better. It's so much better. Crazy space monkeys is so much better.
We did an April Fool's thing where we had a Mechagodzilla toaster that we promoted.
Oh,
and it's actually from a legit source, but we, if people want it, who knows? Maybe we'll make one. But
toaster.
Oh my God, I did see that. But
in our copy, I wrote this copy. It was like, go, space ape over this toaster, blah blah blah. But then even Mechagodzilla goes through a transformation in that. And then as we kind of talked about the spoiler for another movie, Godzilla even goes through this transformation. Like there's just a lot of like layers upon layers. That's what I really, really do like about it. Plus it introduces the coolest thing of all, which is G-Force. And it's this whole UNGCC, the United Nations Godzilla Countermeasure Center. And, I've got like a work shirt that's got it on the back and everything else. Like it's a legit work shirt. It's something we are looking to bring in eventually as like a fan club kind of thing. Don't quote me on when that's going to happen, but it's something like you can build a brand on for sure. And to me, it's a cool thing to introduce, and they kind of then just don't do anything with it after that. So movie's great, but then afterwards, and we get into one that is not my favorite at all.
So next up is I'm trying to remember these things. Next up is Space Godzilla, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So Space Godzilla. Space Godzilla is a loose. I guess it's not loose. It goes all the way back to Biollante because the space spores, after Biollante gets blown up, all those little spores go up into space. And because because Biollante is a genetic connection, cousin, whatever, to Godzilla, these Godzilla cells go up into space and end up mutating and coming back, and you have this giant crystal space Godzilla guy. This one is definitely kind of a weaker point too. They actually turned the baby Godzilla from looking like an actual like dinosaur type of thing into this weird kind of wannabe Minya / with like giant cartoon eyes. It was an awkward thing.
I read somewhere, either online or in a magazine, somebody called it like a frog Yokozuna. And I think it's a perfect example of like what little Godzilla was at that time. Frog Yokozuna. Just like
it was weird. Awkward. They did bring back another thing from other Toho stuff called Mogra, which is an old from the Futurians from way back in the day. They made a new robot called Mogra. Basically had the same design, but he was just pure robot. So they weren't done with the robot thing at that point. It's a soft movie.
Just different composer. Akira Ifukube, who created the Roar, who created the Footsteps, and like tons of music, like through the show era, like one of the staples, of all this stuff. Just wasn't on the soundtrack. It was just everything felt different, really. Like they tried different different like matte shots, like matte painting, not really matte painting, but like the how do I phrase that? If you use like a green screen or blue screen or something like, it's just they just try different stuff. It just feels like a completely different movie. Space Godzilla looks super cool, but I just
well, and Space Godzilla kind of falls into some of the problems that I have with the next movie villain, which is basically that it's especially when you're talking dudes in suits, it's so bulky. There's only so much it can really do. And so you've got this big thing that's like flying, and it looks awkward when it's flying because it's just kind of like hovering around. There's no dynamic element to it. Like when Mechagodzilla flies, like his head turns and his tail goes straight, and you get a different kind of visual for it. But when these guys are just guys in suits, it's like, well, let's lift up the suit and it's gonna float around a little bit.
Just he does one of these.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Or Megalon, just like.
Yeah,
Megalon on the tail. Yeah, you're right. So when we come into the final,
there might be a toy coming out that allows you to do that.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Yeah. So the final movie, of course, is Godzilla versus Destroya. The final of the High Sea era. Basically, this one had a really cool concept to it. As you went through the entire film, we kind of understood that Godzilla is basically this nuclear reactor. He's absorbing radiation, and he's eating stuff in 1984. And he's reached a point where he's basically a nuclear reactor that's melting down. And it's going to just explode, melt, whatever that China syndrome thing is, where you melt into the earth and you melt the core and the earth dies. So you have a really cool concept in that regard. And then they also do a throwback to the oxygen destroyer from the original movie, which I can't remember all the little pieces, but basically he's creating this micro oxygen stuff, and within it are these little guys, these little crab guys, who end up growing and growing and growing, and eventually you have a whole bunch of them, but they can also like merge like a Voltron and become one big destroy a guy.
Why not?
Yeah. And again, while you have this cool visual, it's so bulky. It's like it's like Batman. He can't turn his head. There's like, I can do so much here, and then I'm gonna fly now, and then I'm so it was awkward. In the film was awkward in that type of visual, which is one of the things that I really like about the MonsterVerse stuff, is the ability to do CGI changes all of the dynamics of the fights. I mean, obviously, because you can basically do anything you want in that point. Whereas when you're a guy in a suit, you're very limited. But it was a cool movie overall. Godzilla does melt down, which is interesting. He does literally melt down, and it's a pretty harsh scene where he's falling apart.
Yeah, the trailer says it right there. It's like, like Gojira Shisu, like Godzilla dies, and Godzilla does die in that movie. Like, it's no lie, like he dies, he's gone.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, and it's a pretty horrific thing. I mean, he melts down literally. It's
really sad scene.
Like, actually. Holy cow, yeah. But of course we had spoiler alert. We had baby Godzilla around. Still, baby Godzilla is still around. So as the meltdown happens and the radiation is pouring out of Godzilla, suddenly the radiation starts to dissipate. What's going on? I don't understand. Where's it going? Oh my gosh! We see this. We see this great shot. Everything goes quiet. It's this big light comes on, and as you start to move in, there's a shadow. As the baby has absorbed the radiation, he's now a full Godzilla again. You get that roar, and you roll out, and you're done with the High Sea series. So, which was interesting that they didn't just let him die somehow, versus because they knew that was it. Like, we're going to end this thing. So they could have just let him die and been like, hey, we finally have sort of a bookend to 1954. We're done. It's over with.
Well, even Godzilla Jr., like, he dies in that.
He
movie.
dies. Yeah, he dies too. Yeah. The Destroyer kills it.
Yeah, so it's kind of like weird that you guys chose to do that. But who knows? Maybe somebody had a crystal ball and could see what was coming in '98. So
yeah. Then 98 came, and then we'll move right along.
Yeah, we'll just kind of.
Well,
They'll move right along. Then Godzilla came back for the Millennium, and
look back though. Nobody look behind the rearview mirror. Like we hit something. We don't know what it is.
Yep. Bump in the road, and now we're cool again. Godzilla 2000 came out for the new Millennium. This was called the Millennium series. He had a completely new design, which I really liked. I wasn't sure at first because the spikes were like gigantic. I mean, really like huge, ridiculous spikes. But he was also slimmed down a little bit. He could move a little bit. Here's a quick look at him. Yep. This really has grown on me. This design has grown on me a lot. The movie again is one of these where you got, God, we just had this really awkward monster. So what should we do? Hey, let's have another awkward monster. And that's this big guy called Orga.
How do you explain it, Tom?
How do I explain
aliens?
It's aliens.
It's alien stuff.
It's fine.
Alien stuff.
Yeah, it's aliens. It is aliens. Yeah. And Orga. It's kind of funny because Orga tries to eat Godzilla. Literally, his mouth is big enough that he just basically tried. You ever seen like the pelicans trying to eat big animals like that? That was this. It's like, hey, I'm just going to eat Godzilla.
Beyonce tried to do the same thing. So
that's true. Yeah.
Had they been same continuity, maybe Orga would have known better. But
oh man, yeah. It was a strange movie. This actually is the first Godzilla movie I ever saw in a theater outside of the '98, of course. This was the first one I ever saw in a theater before. So that was a cool experience, and I think that helped me through the weirdness of Orga because that's weirdness in Orga. But it was fun. It was all right. But then the rest of the movies didn't come out in America, at least not in any official capacity. The second one, I love this movie so much, and it took a while for me to love it. It's called Godzilla versus Megaguirus, and basically it's Godzilla against a giant dragonfly. Is the bottom line of it. Now it's kind of like Destroy. It starts as all these little guys, and then it grows into bigger guys. But here's the great part about this movie. Here's the underlying like, hey, we have to deal with Godzilla again. What should we do? Oh. And the thought process is, what if we put him in a black hole? Like that's what they try and do. Like that's their thought process is, what if we made a black hole and put him in it? And I'm like, yeah, of course. That makes complete sense. So you have this complete wackadoo backstory from the humans mixed with this cool big bug guy.
But if I can add to that, Tom,
yeah, please.
Even more so, Godzilla is this crazy threat, right? Like everybody is like, Godzilla's got to be dealt with. Like, no matter what, we get rid of Godzilla. Blah, blah. They weaponize a black hole. They actually shoot a black hole. Like they make it a weapon to shoot at Godzilla. Like black holes just suck up matter and everything. Like but they're like, yeah, Godzilla's on Tokyo. Shoot that black hole at Tokyo. Get Godzilla. Like it's completely.
Whoops.
Yeah. It's. I don't know how to describe it. It's like if you had a water balloon with acid, you're like, let's get rid of that fly on my wall. Like throwing acid at my wall. Like,
oh.
Yeah,
problem might be gone, but you got a bigger problem now.
Yeah.
It's really fun. It's total nonsense, and it's really fun.
Not to give too much away, with the new Netflix series, there's kind of a little trace of Megaguirus in there.
Cool.
In the plot line, not character wise. I don't want. Oh my god! Definitely. Oh my god!
Spoiler: Megaguirus is confirmed in.
There's something that happens in the series, and I was like, oh my god, that's cool. That's like a fun throwback to that. It's completely random. It has nothing to do with anything. It's like, yeah, it's not important. Just if you know that movie and you watch this new series, you can be like, aha, I get it.
Very cool.
So then we move into a kind of a unique one. What is it? Is it called? It's Godzilla. Godzilla. Oh my God! What's the title? Mothra. Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, All Out Attack. All
Giant
monsters.
monsters.
Giant
Monsters.
It is exactly. Yeah, it's exactly what you get in the title. It's all of these monsters they attack. But the interesting part is this was instead of the continuity part that we had, this is a complete reimagining of what we've got going on, because you've got Godzilla as basically an ultimate evil now. I mean, he's always been a bad guy, but he's like the ultimate evil. But you have Baragon and Ghidorah actually becomes a good guy. They're like the saviors of the planet in this case. So it's a complete reimagining of the Godzilla lore. And I think this is the first time that they ever had a woman in one of the costumes, right? Because Baragon was a woman.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Baragon was not fighting Frankenstein anymore.
That's right. Yeah. And there's a great video of her when they're filming, just like behind the scenes stuff, where she's in the suit and she's running around, and you can hear her in the suit going, "Arr, rawr," like that. It's really good. It's really good. This is one that it's really an interesting movie. I struggle with it because the CG is just really weak. There's so much kind of weak stuff going on. There's a lot of CG for Ghidorah, and it just it's not what we have here. But the story is so interesting and such a complete, like, we're going over here now. We're not going to worry about what you just saw. We're going over here. That it kind of like shocks you and wakes you up, and you're like, oh, okay, this is like way different. So I think it works overall and it's one of the most popular movies in the series.
It's my favorite Godzilla design, actually. He's just got these white eyes, giant fangs, very
he's full crazy.
Yeah, kind of very. I have a toy of him or statue thing over on the other side there. But what I like about it is like the feet are massive and they're thick, and to me, it's like that's kind of like a fun design thing where it's like you have that fear of like getting stepped on by a giant monster. So like, of course, the feet are big, and so they have that like psychological effect or something. But the wide eyes, and then to Tom's point, like the origin is like Godzilla's the embodiment of like the war dead from World War II, both Japanese, and then I think they allude to like even other countries as well. All these spirits are like, everyone's moved on in the 50 years or so since, and we're forgotten. So we're going to manifest ourselves in this giant monster and just like wreak havoc on the country. And now you guys will remember. But other monsters like Mothra, Baragon, and then King Ghidorah are all like kind of like protective monsters. So King Ghidorah actually takes on a heroic role for the first time ever, and it's a lot of fun. It's actually like I like the movie a lot. There's one scene in particular. There you go. See?
Oh,
I love that design. Absolutely,
I haven't seen that one.
I think that's the tallest suit they've ever had.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the one I've always said, because we had the one from 2000. We had that on the show floor at Comic-Con in 2019. And then at the licensing expo the same year, I stuck one leg in and was like, there's no way I'm going to fit in this thing. Nope, not trying it. But that GMK suit, I think I might be able to fit in that.
Yeah, and then there were 3 more Millennium series. The next 2 were direct continuity. We went back to this style design. And the next 2 were 2 of my favorites. It's basically the new Mechagodzilla, which is Kiryu. And I think I had a picture of him, unless I lost it. But basically, he is a much higher tech design than what we had with Schwarzenegger.
So buff. Those pecs. That upper body that he's doing it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Gotta find that out.
But what was cool about this is, and this was a retcon, because in the original Godzilla movie, spoiler alert, there is no corpse. The bones disintegrate along with the oxygen destroyer. Everything disappears. It's all gone. But in this one, they decided that no, the bones were still there. It's fine. So they went and got Godzilla's bones and built the machine around the bones. So it's less robot and it's more cyborg style thing. But what was cool about this was
kind of like if Jurassic Park was just like nothing but robotic dinosaurs. And
right,
like, right. We have these bones, but why clone them? We're just going to build robots of them.
Yeah,
but
and so
robot exoskeletons. So everything.
And so also this is where you get sort of that official, yes, there's more than one Godzilla, because you had this old Godzilla that they were using the bones. Here's the modern Godzilla, whatever. So, there's not just one Godzilla. But when they actually start to fight, when they actually are sent in and they fight and Godzilla shows up, Kiryu, basically the bones inside of the thing basically override the mechanical part, because it's like fighting himself. And he's like, well, no, that we're not going to do that.
That's never happened in another movie since, has it?
No, never.
Never.
So I really liked that. I thought that was pretty cool. And then it went into a direct sequel called Tokyo SOS, where the story just continued on. Mothra comes in and so on.
But Godzilla gets super messed up against Godzilla, or against Mechagodzilla, the one before. Then he shows up with that crazy cool scar on his chest.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, cool.
But again, they kept that like 2000-ish Megaguirus, like giant dorsal fin that you got to be careful, poke your eye out or something with it.
Yeah, I mean, you could use that as a weapon somehow. I don't know how you do that.
I don't know. Weapon out.
And then the last one of the series, guys, was basically a throwback homage to Destroy All Monsters. It's called Final Wars. And I mean, right out of the gate, it's insane with Manda fighting this flying submarine, and getting killed off like in the first 10 minutes. Like, Manda's gone. Oh shit! But a good portion of the monsters all come back, which is fun. They get kind of redesigned. The giant spiders, the even the smog monster shows up for a second. Ibira, the dumb lobster, shows up. There's a lot of ones that got screen time that I'm like, well, no, we should have had Titanosaurus or something here, not the lobster. But it was a really weird movie because you had aliens, so it was very like Invasion of the Astro Monster style.
Same aliens,
wearing the black Exilians, yeah. Yep, they were clearly homages.
65, though.
yes, they did. They show up, and of course they take control of the monsters, and the human beings are like, well, yeah, but we have Godzilla, so they go and get Godzilla out of the ice, and they drag him back into the city, and as he goes across the world, basically, he's like, well, we're in Australia. You're gonna fight Zilla. That's a 6-second. Fight. He's done. He goes into New Guinea and he's fighting spiders. He goes into here.
Like Street Fighter 2 at that point.
Exactly. Every country he goes to, he's fighting another monster. Yeah.
Thailand. Then it's like,
yeah. And then he's playing soccer with Rodan and Guiris and King Caesar, and it's crazy. And it's a really wild movie. I like it a lot. A lot of people don't like it. They don't like the design. I thought it was fine. It was very sleek, very, very movable. And he had to do that if he was going to be jumping around and doing stuff. But the music was very different too. The music is like completely different from almost anything you've ever heard in a Godzilla movie. It's very electronic, Daft Punk-ish type of stuff. But I like that too. I bought that on CD. I'm like, yeah, I want that soundtrack. That's cool. And had a number of returning actors. I mean, Akira Takarada's in like almost all of them. But it was cool. One, yeah. It's it was cool to see him back, and it was a really fun way to kind of end Godzilla again, right before we went into a kind of a gap for a while until 2014 showed up.
And actually, Final Wars, like that was the first movie in the series that it premiered at the Chinese Theater.
Did it really?
In LA. Yep.
Wow.
It declared Godzilla Day. That's when Godzilla got the star on the Walk of Fame. Was also in the Hollywood Christmas Parade that year as well. It was a big year. 2004 was a big year. It was a 50th anniversary year. Yeah, so you're gonna, we're working towards the 70th anniversary now, which would be in
Wow.
2024. There's a couple anniversaries coming up. Like this year is Mothra's 60th, Hedera, Smog Monster's 50th. Next year's Gigan. So we'll hook Buzzsaw guy. 73, Megalon and Jet Jaguar, and then it kind of crazy. It kind of sucks. Like 70th for Godzilla, and then 50th for Mechagodzilla. Like, who is arguably a very popular character. So
just a little. He did actually, and I forgot about this one. I want to show this because this one's crazy, and this actually never appeared in the anime, but this was the anime edition of Mechagodzilla.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is really crazy. But in the actual movie itself, this guy basically adapted himself and became Mechagodzilla City. So we never actually, I mean, we saw pieces of him like this, but he was kind of like deconstructed, like out of commission. But that was him from the anime. I like this. This is so crazy that I like that a lot. And I was kind of bummed that we didn't actually get that thing happening in the anime. But he redesigned himself to be Godzilla City. So
what do you think of the anime series?
I didn't. Well, here's the thing. I didn't think they were great Godzilla movies, but I did think they were good anime sci-fi movies. Just from a basic, like, we're coming in watching a sci-fi thing. This is cool. And I thought they got better as they went along. I like the last one the most, with the Ghidorah things coming out of the black hole idea. So I think there was a lot of good idea, but there was so little Godzilla. He was like a side note, but the story that was happening was good. But I think if you're going in there, again, like 1998, it's like, yeah, but it's called Godzilla. Why isn't Godzilla in the Godzilla movie? Then you get a little bit bummed out, but they're totally watchable. And if you guys haven't seen it, you should check them out. And then there is the new one that's coming out, Singular Point, do you know when it's coming in America?
Not allowed to say.
Okay. All right.
It's a thing with Netflix, and there's a few people involved.
Soonish.
Yeah. Very soonish.
Okay.
Yeah, very soonish. It's airing in Japan right now.
Right.
So, but very soonish. It's awesome. I like it a lot. So, lots of throwbacks. Lots of if you've been digging all the stuff we've been talking about.
Yeah, seen all the trailers and everything.
So like this,
Yeah. Well, we're actually kind of, I mean, technically we can keep going as long as we want, but we're kind of running up on our 2 hours, so we don't have a whole lot of time left. I'm wondering, Jim and Dave, have you guys seen Shin Godzilla?
I was about to ask, Michael, were you talking about Shin Godzilla?
Yeah, right. Shin Godzilla?
That one came out like right after the Bryan Cranston one did, right?
Yeah. About 4 years ago or so.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the one where he starts as a little weird, googly-eyed guy and then grows into the big monster.
Yes.
I think that one I did see. Yeah. Yep, I saw that one.
Yeah, because when you said right after the Bryan Cranston one, I was like, I forgot about that one.
I'm not sold that Jim has seen this. I'm not sold at all.
Why aren't you sold that I've seen this?
Because you're like, yeah, I've seen that one.
No, because when I was at CBCS, there was a guy that was like super Godzilla guy. And he's like, you got to see this movie. It's better than the Bryan Cranston movie. And I was like, all right. And he let me borrow his copy of it. So that's why I know I watched it. But it took me a couple months. He's like, hey, did you watch it? Like, no, not yet. And like, it's like when someone gives you a movie to watch and then like you sit on it for months kind of thing. It's like, I'll get to it.
So Shin Godzilla was a complete reboot. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was very derivative of the original in a lot of ways, but it was on purpose. They did that on purpose. So there's a lot of cool, like the roar is the same and the music is the same, and it's got a lot of really cool stuff going on in that regard. I liked that he had to evolve to get to the final form. It was directed by the guy who did Evangelion, by the way, for those that don't know.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's part of why you're getting a lot of this weird stuff, because he likes that weird stuff. But it was a little too strange for me early on. I know a friend of mine, in fact, Carrie Castor, who writes the opposite side of Kaiju Epic for me. She loves the movie and she loves the goofy, guy with no arms and who's like a worm, like crawling around, and his eyes are like
one of my favorites. One of my favorites.
And I know a lot of people dig that, and I know a lot of people absolutely hate it.
I have a sleeping mask of that, just so like the googly eyes. Yeah.
Dear God, that's funny. But I all of it is worth it to finally get to this final form. Not to steal from Dragon Ball, but it's a amazing design to me. I was completely enthralled by it. As it kept doing more, I kept like, oh my God, oh my God. And when he finally reaches the final form, we're going to show you a couple of little images here. I love the part where he finally gets his breath going, and he basically just pukes on Tokyo, and it's just filling the streets. Which we've got a little shot of it here as he starts to it just goes throughout all the streets. It's a really cool visual. It's an amazing effect. But then you're not ready for it, because then it turns into a freaking laser beam.
Yep.
Where he's just cutting everything down, which is nuts. And then he's got the ability to shoot it all out of his back. You know, like the bombers come in and they're going to like drop bombs on him, and he's like, nope, pew, pew, pew. All this stuff goes up and he kills all the bombs and stuff. And he's got a laser tail too. It's on his tail.
Yep.
Zip, zip, zip. Just crazy. Just insane. Just purely insane film. For me, I thought that there was a little too much, men in the boardroom again. There's so much men in the boardroom. Some of it was there for a purpose. Like it was, a lot of it was quote unquote real. Like, what if this happened? What would be the red tape that everyone would have to go through? All of the different stages of, well, what do we do when it's this tail in the bay? I don't know what we do with it. Well, now it's bigger. Well, now what do we do with it? Well, now it's bigger. Well, now what do we do with it? So some of that became a little repetitive for me. Because I'm like, at some point, someone has to just be like, just take it out, rather than the worm is bigger. What do we do? But the evolution of Godzilla through the whole thing is so worth all of it. That it's a pretty good, and unfortunately it's the only Shin, because Toho has decided they're going to go a different direction with future stuff. So no Shin Ghidorah, no Shin Gigan or any of that. There's some pretty cool designs online that fans have made. Like, what if there was a Shin Ghidorah? What would it look like? And they're pretty cool. But no more Shin for us. So a one and done, but it was definitely an interesting entry into the whole thing.
Well,
one thing I like about that movie is that they have when there was a premiere in LA that I went to, and my now coworkers at the time asked me, they're like, do you think American audiences will like that? And I was like, I like the government stuff in there, because at the time it was like, oh my God, after Katrina, like, are you kidding me? Like, the whole point of the government in that movie was like, every single chance they ignored the scientists, they ignored the people who were like, well, what if it's a sea creature? They're like, there's no way it'd be a sea creature. All of a sudden, sea creature, but it might make landfall. It's not gonna make landfall. And the guy in the middle of his press conference, he's like, it made landfall. And just all of this stuff. And for me, it was like this. It was more of a government under the microscope thing, and Godzilla was just like, again, like, took on this role of a natural disaster or a problem, like an unintentional problem. Earlier we were talking about, like, what is Godzilla like in the Heisei series. To me, it's like you hear these stories about, like, oh, bear loose in a neighborhood. It's like the bear didn't obviously go there to go maul anybody, but if you probably go and want to go punch that bear, he's probably going to kick your ass. Like, that's Godzilla. It does what it does and shows up. And in Shin Godzilla especially, it was like there was the whole element of the Makigoro, and kind of figuring this thing out and saying, you know, like humanity sort of has us coming, and you know, it's a test for humanity, and like, can people come together, and all that kind of stuff it's fun. It's kind of weird, but I liked the designs of the monster. I love googly eyes, like him, buggy eyes as I call him. You know, like Kamada-kun, I think is the name. I didn't really care for the back, the dorsal laser thing. It's cool, but I'm like, yeah.
It was just so. It's so again. It was everything about Godzilla was so different that I was just like, okay, just give me something else. Give me what's next. Show me what's coming.
It won a ton of awards in the Japanese Oscars, if you will. So,
Wow.
Including Best Picture.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it won the Japanese Best Oscar Picture.
He's on my business card, like that design. So, yeah. Like Toho's all about Shin Godzilla, that design, for sure.
Is there zero chance that they'll come back to it? Like, is it literally zero?
I honestly don't know. Like, I think MonsterVerse right now. So the MonsterVerse is, for people that don't know, is like the legendary films, 2014, which was a standalone film, maybe chance of a sequel. But then they did Kong Skull Island. It was like, ooh, someone was like, we should tie all these things in together. And then, yeah. So, and to Skull Island, you see like, oh, there's Mothra, Ghidorah, Rodan, and then King of the Monsters, and then King of Monsters, like the end credits, you know, Godzilla fighting Kong. So I don't know. I think everyone's just kind of waiting to see what happens with this one. But like Singular Point is clearly a sign of like, you know, Toho's still producing new things.
Sure. Well, yeah, there was the talk about Toho like designing their own shared thing, like the MonsterVerse essentially, but you know, on their own, I don't know, terms or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that might have gotten like the reporting might have gotten a little bit mixed up.
Okay.
In that Toho is producing its own movies. It really is more of like, at least to my knowledge, like a focus on these other characters. So everyone knows Godzilla, but you know, part of the reason why I'm there too is to like build up hype and build up awareness of these other characters. So we have what we call our Fab Five, you know, Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, Mechagodzilla, King Ghidorah. And then we've got the other five, and I kind of call it 5.5, you know, which is like, you know, Anguirus, Jet Jaguar, Hedorah, Violante, Minula, and Gigan. So it's 6, but I'm like, Minula's like half of that.
Yeah. You know. Yeah. Yeah. Again, we don't want to go into the spoilers too much, so maybe we'll save MonsterVerse for another time. Once we
that's a paid subscription, right?
What's that?
Spoilers? That's a paid subscription, right?
Yeah.
Spoilers?
That's right. That's right.
Sign
That's
up
right.
for the Big Dog Inc. Patreon.
I'll give you my PayPal, and then we'll continue the show for those that are part of it. Yeah.
Going back to comics too, though, Tom. Like Big Dog Inc. Like, congrats for everything.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and because of you, you know, I want to give a shout out to, you know, like Victoria Page, Stephanie Taylor, like everyone I met like through the Tucson Comic Con and then Phoenix Comic Con. So like I love Arizona, love that state. Can't wait to get back there for some kind of show or something. We're
all waiting on that. Well, yeah, because you're a Tucson Comic Con regular, which they normally do in November. I haven't heard if they're going to try and do it this year, because there's a lot of shows that are trying to do late in the year to kind of see how things play out. But
Comic-Con, which is I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's going to be sketchy.
It's like bizarre.
It's going to be sketchy. I mean, there are a bunch of shows that are happening. I mean, I'm watching them happen, but most of them are fairly small. But Tucson is small too, so they might be able to squeak by and make it happen. I know that Phoenix proper, I think, moved to. I want to say they moved to January.
Wow. It's kind of like everyone's just like, what's the game? Croquet? Is that what it is? Where you like hit the ball?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. It's almost like everyone's doing that. Like COVID was just like this giant ball. It was like moving everybody.
6 more months.
Yeah, it's like, well, if San Diego's not in July, then there's no cons.
Well, also, like, you know, Godzilla vs. Kong was supposed to come out like
last year.
Yeah. it's moved 3 times actually. Yeah. So last year, like twice, and then it's crazy.
It was moved. I just want my goddamn Ghostbusters movie.
I'm afraid of no ghost. Tom, before
David,
we go,
I forgot that they filmed that. That's how long it's been. I think they've been completely silent about it. Wow.
Yeah. No new trailer, no nothing.
Well, it's not out till next year. They moved it till next year.
Yeah, it's next year.
By the time it comes out, the kid that's in it will be an adult.
Yeah.
But I do want to say this. Now, I know you don't want to talk about it, Tom, but going back to Godzilla 1998.
Okay.
Outside of The Simpsons, Godzilla 1998 is the only movie to have most of the cast of The Simpsons involved. Hank Azaria, Harry Shearer, and Nancy Cartwright are all in Godzilla 1998, which is why, in my opinion, it is the superior Godzilla film, just because I'm such a Simpsons fan.
No, this is okay. Never mind, I'm not asking.
Nancy has a cameo, and then Hank obviously is one of the main characters, supporting characters, and then Harry's also a cameo, but more than Nancy. But
saw in the theater.
Hank has this great scene where he's filming Godzilla in the street.
Oh,
and Godzilla's running down the street, and he's like, "Oh my god!" And the foot comes down, and then it comes up, and he's still alive, and he's looking around, and then he just starts laughing, like dying laughing. They actually made trading cards for the '98 film, obviously back in the day. There's a lenticular card of Hank Azaria just laughing, just.
Oh my god,
that's awesome!
It's so fantastic.
Please,
it's like the greatest piece of memorabilia of all time.
Some of these things like expensive, like crazy expensive.
Well, a lot of that stuff is becoming expensive now. I mean, for a while it wasn't there, but
oh my god!
Yes.
So what am I looking at? Oh, is that your ticket?
That's the pinball machine.
Oh,
Sega did. That's in our basement at work. So
whoa,
wow,
that movie. It's not like we hate that movie by any means. Toho made a lot of money off it. So,
well, I mean, and it did well enough that they did the animated series, which is wildly popular. I mean, basically everybody likes that. So yeah.
Honestly, I like the design of him in it. Like, I like the design.
I don't think anyone has a problem with the design.
No.
I think it's more just the rest of the presentation. Yeah, there's no fire breath. There's
It was just the raptor thing for me. That part, come on, I was like,
yeah, it was. It's very Jurassic Parkish with the raptors. But you also had the Lost World that came out around the same time, and there was also raptor scenes with that. Except for this one's in a city, but yeah.
Also, kind of the fact that like he's dodging missiles and then gets hit by like 4.
He dodges missiles. He dodges buildings. He moves around things.
He hid in the city somehow, even though he's a big ass freaking. Like they can't find him, really.
He's Batman. He's like Batman.
Leon the Professional shows up.
Yes. Jean Reno.
Good movie. I saw that movie in the theater.
I did too. Yeah, I was like, I walked out going.
We all saw that. We all
saw it in the theater.
It had a great marketing campaign. I mean,
yeah. Taco Bell and
trailers,
all kinds of
stuff. Partnerships, buses were like his eye is as big as this bus.
Yeah,
I remember like,
but it's not this.
No.
Yeah. For me,
and like the big one, that big Godzilla that came out, that toy. I've still got it someplace. I bought that damn thing right off. I was like, oh, and they revealed it. I'm like, oh, but crap, they revealed it. So I didn't care. I bought it.
Well,
didn't it come with people he could like throw in his mouth and stuff?
Yeah, there was like stuff you could throw in his mouth and like you could go through his stomach and everything. Yeah, it was cool.
What?
Don't you remember that?
I missed that toy. The Godzilla
man.
Eats people toy. No, I have not heard of the
Godzilla.
eBay that thing.
Oh my gosh! Now the big toy is what they had when King of the Monsters came out at the Cinerama Dome.
Oh yeah, the big inflatable.
Yeah.
That's a thing. That is a thing. Where is it, Tris? Where is it?
Probably in some kind of like WB storage.
And how do I get it, Chris?
I could just see like Tom going up to the
Break
small
into WB storage.
kind of still, like poking. He's
Rent
like,
a truck, go to
hang on a
Burbank.
second.
Oh my god. Yeah, we'll have to do a MonsterVerse show at some point, especially once people get a chance to see Kong versus Godzilla. I mean, there's no official news, but we're gonna get something, right? I mean, I'm assuming even the next movie has to be Kong Hollow Earth, something along those lines. To you know, there's no reason that the MonsterVerse can't continue. You have Kong, you have all the other Titans that were created for the MonsterVerse. So even if you don't have Godzilla and Rodan and whatever, there's still obvious paths to just keep going and do stuff. So, you know,
not to spoil anything, but I find it ironic that I guess the Kong made axe somehow fits in a piece of earth that unlocks, you know, that thing, and it's just like, what? Are they really that? They're that enhanced to do that, but. Well, I guess Kong picked up sign language pretty fast too, but yeah,
He shoved it in. It didn't.
These intelligent monkeys who have not evolved into giant humans yet. Hey, maybe we'll get a Frankenstein.
Maybe Kong is related to the monkeys from the Showa era aliens. Maybe that's the connection right there.
You never know. See? Absolutely.
See, I got this down. Man.
Maybe people from the future show up and they're like, Kong, you would have won this if you weren't so like primitive and stupid. Like, here, instead of this axe, here's like this giant laser cannon or something. Like, use this instead. Done.
Yeah, here's a gun that we made out of the Mecha Godzilla.
Ooh, or maybe it's like a Gilligan's Island. They make like out of coconuts or something. They get like a high-powered gun out of coconuts or something.
See, this is why David is an artist. And
yeah,
coconut gun. I like that.
Coconut guns. Yeah,
you're talking to the same. I mean, I'm the guy who created a killer toaster, so I mean, we're not too far in between.
Get on to him. He created the killer toaster.
There you go. Let's toasters and toasters. We just talked about them. Let's do a toaster.
Mecha toaster.
Toaster collab.
Yeah, Mecha toaster. Oh my god. Guys, thanks for hanging out. Chris, thanks for hanging out with us. This was fantastic. We really super appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
When we circle back around at some point and get the MonsterVerse chat in, and people have had a chance to see the movie, maybe we'll try and get you back in for a little bit and go over all your MonsterVerse secrets.
Dun, dun, dun.
Sure, yeah. Or Jaws
or we clearly have to do a recap of Jaws. That's
we could do a sequel.
I forgot lines from the movie. I'm sorry to memorize the script, Tom. You didn't say we're going to need a bigger boat. You had to do the one line that I'm not going to remember. You know,
bigger boat's too easy. Bigger boat.
Jim, have you seen Jaws 2 though?
Yeah, I've seen them all. Oh yeah.
Okay, so if you can track down the novelization for Jaws 2, or
I have that.
I've seen your post, Tom. I know you have that, and the awesome Gene Colan illustrated like Marvel Super Special.
Yep,
that's framed and hang. I have a little bit of my bathroom that's like a Jaws corner where it's like, Don Figueroa did a Transformers like RC and a Sharkticon like doing like a Jaws homage. I've got like a bunch of original art that's like in this corner that's like Jaws thing with a Narragansett can and bottle of wine from Coppola or whatever. But they did the Coppola Vineyards did a Jaws wine. I didn't get something from Francis Ford Coppola. I live in LA. I'm not like that kind of person. No. I bought it at Vaughn's or something. But that Jaws 2 story is so different than what was filmed. Like it's got like mafia ties. It's like,
oh wow,
pretty cool actually. And I kind of wish they filmed that one instead. But
well, and Jaws 4, do you know Jaws 4 story with all the voodoo stuff that was pulled out? Yeah, that stuff's in the book. Is the voodoo stuff is in the book? So yeah.
The Jaws franchise has been probably the most like pulled and nitpicked, and like, here we go. We got to start shooting. Just go. We got
Dennis Quaid and action.
Yeah, and throwing dolphins. Let's go.
Yeah. Yes, the dolphins at the end where and it's SeaWorld. It's not like Waterworld or some made up fucking water park. It's legitimately Sea World.
Yeah.
And I don't think they gave any money to the production. I think they're just like, yeah, you can film here.
Yeah,
Or SeaWorld, I would have been like, or Universal.
Oh,
You guys owe us.
that's
Throw a bunch of marketing money our way.
that's a hell of a marketing campaign. Come to see our shark.
yeah. Come
Yeah.
see the shark. Don't get stuck in the underwater tank. Like,
Yes.
Yeah, it seems very odd marketing. That's like we were talking about Christine the other night, and he was like, "Yeah, Elon Musk is going to do a Christine thing." I'm like, "No, he doesn't
yeah, it's
want
gonna be
crazy
killing
AI cars killing people. He wants us to
No.
want AI cars."
No, see,
Not-
here's the thing, right? Because not everybody can afford his Tesla cars. So here's what he's going to do. He's going to have
no.
the Tesla cars kill people, but then the way they kill Christine is they're going to do the Elon Musk flamethrowers, which is more affordable than the car. So the flamethrower sales are going to go through the roof for Elon
Well, he's
Musk.
already experimenting with like AI controlled, like cerebral interface thought kind of thing. Like he could totally be like, "Do you love that car? Well, cool. When you die, we can put you in that car."
Put you in that car.
So,
You know,
hey,
you
whoa,
never
wait a
know.
minute.
Do you want to donate your body to science or to Elon Musk? Yeah.
Or to Ford. Where do you want?
Have
yourself?
you guys ever been to the Peterson Museum in LA? The car, like the automotive museum. So I went there pre-COVID, so I guess like a year and a half ago or so with my dad, and we did like you pay extra, you can go in like the vault tour. So you go like underground in their vault with all these crazy cars, and they've got like a Pope-mobile. They've got ones where like people died in, like famous politicians or whatever, like assassinations and things like that.
Wow.
The creepiest car though was one of the Christine cars. And it's just sitting there, and you're like, and it's lined up between all these other cars, and I'm just like, that mofo is going to turn on and just go straight ahead, you know.
You like
You know, I'm like,
you hear bad to bone, you're getting your ass out of there.
totally, absolutely. Like I hear anything pre 1980, I'm like, I'm running upstairs.
Oh my God,
Well,
that's
that's like
fantastic.
here in Missouri, just real quick. In Missouri, we had the Highway Department Museum, and they had the original Bonnie and Clyde car that they got killed in. No kidding. And that thing was,
I think it probably looks like a cheese grater.
yeah,
With all the bullets in it. Yeah.
Dude, it was blood stains still on it and everything. They didn't clean it or nothing. And I was like, okay.
See, what happened was Indiana Jones showed up and said, that belongs in a museum. Immediately.
That's the next movie. Is that the next movie? He's going around like finding classic cars and like put that in a museum.
He's
He
the
punched
Bonnie
somebody
and
out,
Clyde
put it on a plane.
the Hitler car.
That belongs in a museum.
It belongs in a museum. Yeah, like it blows my mind. Like the fucking OJ's car's in a museum now. Like the
What?
Bronco?
Bronco?
The Bronco is in a museum. Yeah, I don't know which museum, but I know my brother-in-law actually went and saw. He's like, yeah, the OJ Simpson car's there. Like the
That
one from
makes sense. Though.
the one from the Chase. Really?
Makes
Wow.
sense. I mean, it was topical at the time.
It's history for sure. Yeah, it is history.
It's no Oscar Mayer Wiener movie.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want the Oscar. That's a dream job. If I could just drive the giant hot dog car around for the rest of my life, free hot dogs for the rest of my life,
No joke.
Yeah, it's job for that.
The Oscar
handing out
cars,
whistles,
cars.
handing out whistles at all the grocery shops all over the world, all over the United States.
So
I wonder how you
this
get
week
that
at your
job.
time, Jim.
Do they still do that? Do they still do the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile? Do they still?
Oh
is
yeah,
that still a thing?
they
Yeah,
could
it's still around,
this
sure.
week, dude.
Man.
You had your chance. I should have called you. Hey, get your ass down here. Drive the Wienermobile.
Well, I did see it once when I was like 12, and I got a whistle, and then immediately got the whistle taken away from me because as soon as
Because you're a millennial and you wouldn't
As
stop
soon as-
blowing it.
as soon as we got in the counter, I was like, and then yoink out the window.
This is going off the rails quick, man.
Talking about wieners and putting hot dog whistles in my mouth. Yeah,
That's all normal gym talk. That's all normal gym
Nick the
talk.
it's a
Wienermobile.
totally rad comic
Having a
book.
new Godzilla.
The next totally rad variant, the wiener variant.
Jeez.
There you go, Chris. You could have a comic that's the Transformers Wienermobile.
Oh
That'd be
shit!
pretty rad. I'd like that.
That would be badass.
You should do that.
Yeah.
Probably damn. I know what would its name be? Like Hot Link or something like that.
Hot Link.
Yes,
Hot Link or
got it.
Ballpark.
Ballpark, ballpark. He's just like, here we go. Here it is. Now we're talking about
the OSCAR and have it like with the periods like
scar,
yeah.
like a scar, like yeah.
Having a Decepticon.
You have to be a Decepticon, really.
Oh yeah.
You just add an extra R. It's like you remember that car from Knight Rider. It's Karr.
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
OSCARR.
Yeah.
I think that was Peter Cullen, aka
That is Peter Cullen.
Right?
It was Peter Cullen. Yeah.
Look at this.
We're gonna wrap this up right here with bringing Peter
Wait,
Cullen right back to the
it was Peter
kaiju. Did you
Cullen?
know he is the uncredited voice of Kong in the '76 version?
What?
Peter Cullen is the uncredited voice of King Kong in the '76 edition.
Where?
Yep.
Wow.
There it is. There's
Optimus Prime.
There's your kaiju
Right
wrap up,
And
guys.
there's the way it goes.
I know, right? Yeah, so this has been awesome, guys. We are officially in our 2-hour time slot here. Chris, thanks for doing this. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
to
you so
everybody
much.
it was Kit, but there was also Carr. Know your
Carr.
history. Carr is the bad guy. The bad guy Carr. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yes.
obviously got to have a bad guy other than water.
Also, they had Goliath. That was another bad guy. The big the semi truck that blasted Kit into pieces. Yeah,
I don't remember that.
after
I
season
don't
2, he blasted him into pieces. Kit came back in season 3 as like Super Kit. He had all these extra things that popped out of him. Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
bashed. Yeah.
You sure that wasn't Maximum?
You don't remember Goliath? Goliath was
I don't remember Goliath, actually.
oh my
no.
god. So
I
we're
don't
gonna have to
either.
do a Knight Rider episode. So Goliath was piloted by the guy Richard. I think it was Richard Knight was the old guy that died and gave
Yeah.
Michael all of his stuff, right? So he had an actual son that was gone and showed up, and of course it was just David Hasselhoff in a mustache and a fro. But he
No
came back and he was
way.
jealous of Michael, and he designed Goliath, which was basically a kit car but a big semi. And they had a fight at the end of season 2, and they blew the crap out of Kit. He was demolished and destroyed, and then they had to bring him back and rebuild him. And so we got all these extra super kit powers in the next season. Yes,
Is it on Hulu or anything like that?
It's somewhere. I know people were talking about it. It's on one of these
I
streaming
love
things.
Pluto TV. Shameless plug because it's got Three's Company,
Yeah,
American Gladiators, and one other channel that I absolutely love on there. But yeah,
Oh, it's got American
just go
Gladiators?
just go to YouTube and put in
Yes.
Knight Rider Goliath.
okay,
You'll
I'll find that.
You'll find it. Yeah.
If you guys do a follow-up show on like 80s TV shows centered around
Oh,
vehicles,
yeah.
let me know. Because we can talk Blue Thunder, we can talk Riptide, we
Yeah.
can talk Knight Rider,
Yeah.
Auto Man,
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
Manimal.
all things.
Manimal.
Dude, yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah,
Iron Man
we're
Orcadale, Jaws 3. There you go.
just 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Awesome. All right, guys, we're gonna let you go. Enjoy your Easter tomorrow or now. It's technically Easter now to some of us.
Yeah.
We'll see y'all next week. Next week, guys, we already know what we're doing next week. Next week we are doing a Jonah Hill retrospective. We're gonna go talk all things Jonah Hill because I've been on the Jonah Hill kick of late. So we're gonna talk all things Jonah Hill. The following week we're gonna have another guest. We're going to be doing an Oz show, talking all things Wizard of Oz.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And we're going to have a special Oz guest with us next in 2 weeks as well. So our next 2 weeks are all lined up. We're going to have a good time. We'll see y'all then. Bye-bye.